of the underground. Make madness your ritual.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome to Ritual Madness Podcast. It's been a couple weeks. Hope you guys are all doing well. It is Friday, November 5th. Lots of stuff going on in the Twin Cities. Like I said, I hope you're well. Do me a favor, check out Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated, custom screen printing. Let me see here, antibroadcasting@gmail.com or 612-836-9488. If you're looking to get tattooed, go over to Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective over in Minneapolis, 612-353-4755, or lowbrowsaints@gmail.com. Give them a shout. Tell them I sent you. Maybe they'll charge you a little extra. Real funny joke. Anyway, thank you for joining me. My guest tonight is Mr. John Wheeler. It has been a while, Mr. Wheeler. How have you been?
Whoa, I'm really loud.
You're really hot.
Oh, man, it's hot.
Here we go.
Like, baby.
You actually know how to use a microphone. Like most people that come in and they're like, you're way far away and they'll lean way back in their chair, and you know you can't get them to talk into the mic. They'll be back here, and it's half of a.
That my friend Bill, who's only doing stand-up comedy because I also am. That was we were talking about why we got into it. And I listed all these reasons. I'm like, I don't ever want to tour. I just want to kind of learn how to do it and meet some people. It's my karaoke.
Sure.
But I don't want to wreck a Creed song at Applebee's. I don't want to, learn to listen to all these comedians' podcasts and stuff. But Bill was just like, I was like, well, why do you do it? He's like, I don't know. I just started because you were. But we were just blackout drunk at one of these things. And the sound guy got off stage to be like, Bill, why don't you go ahead and put that by your he had it by his waist because he was just trash all that. It was pretty funny, but he was like, you should maybe Bill, could you go ahead and talk into that? He's like, oh, I got you, man. And then he just had it in his mouth. I'm like, that's a little better.
Well, dude, we have a million fucking things to talk about. I mean, you kind of touched on one of the things that I wanted to touch on is the comedy thing. Now, we saw each other at the extravaganza over there with Jared, his 100th episode, and we got a chance to hang out and talk and kind of shoot the shit back and forth and destroy his podcast pretty much.
Just talk over everybody the whole time.
Right. So you've been a musician for fucking ever, and a songwriter and a videographer, and pre-COVID, you were starting to do this comedy thing. What made you decide to do that? You just wanted to learn a new skill, kind of, get your chops up on the stage, or how did that all?
Yeah, I'm not sure I could pinpoint why. I could tell you why I'm doing it now, but when I started, I'm not. I say this a lot. When I started, I'm not sure what I was thinking. I mean, it was nothing but good, but I think what it was is I was just talking to someone about it a lot.
Yeah.
That I had kind of. Well, I had quit. I'd retired from being in rock bands. I actually stopped pre-COVID, but you wouldn't notice because it was in that February.
Sure. I
talked to everyone in my zero, and I was like, I think I just realized I hate being in local or touring rock bands. I think that I like, or I wasn't sure what I liked or what I wanted. I was just like, I am fucking through. And then COVID hit, so I think anybody that cared, which was some people maybe, but we're like, oh, right, yeah, they'll be back after this. I'm like, no. I actually sat everyone down and was like, that's it. I'm done. And so the comedy thing.
Let me stop you, though. What made you want to stop doing music? I mean, you had toured for a long time with Screaming Monkey Boner and then Mechanical Brain and
Blue Felix. We did a lot of touring.
Blue Felix. And then you did the My Zero kind of in between all of that stuff.
Yeah, too, right? A little later on. And it was a lot of things. For one, just it's weird when you get older, or at least as I got older, it was everybody, me and the band included, I was frustrated with the whole thing. You've seen me be coked up and drunk at the Medis and screaming about having to sell tickets and how it's just great. So people with a lot of dumb friends and no job have a huge advantage, and the rest of us are well, hey, I'm going to spend 8 hours to go drive 3 of these fucking pieces of paper around the city when the internet's been around for 20 years. I absolutely cannot give this any quarter. And I have a lot of opinions about buy-ons and other things. So again, it doesn't necessarily reward quality. I don't know how it possibly would.
I agree with you. Yeah,
because you can't make 20 grand playing in a really good local band. You can only make that by working, which makes it really hard to be in a good band because you have your hands full,
right?
And you have a life and everything like that. So it's really like, hey, is mom and dad gonna pay for this? And it's like, oh, those kids have lots of real important shit to say. Like, so it's like that's what you get. So people start showing up late. Like, oh, skip the opener. It's just gonna be the fucking same. Right. So I mean, it really has created this rotten culture forever. And I'm like, well, okay. So I either have to admit that we're just doing this to dick around, or now that we all have money, we could put it where our mouth is and do this. And of course, now that we all have money, we don't want to spend it on that because it's like, who wants to buy a $150,000 lottery ticket and go hurt our backs and then have it all be for nothing because we're like, yep, some people liked it. We got a few people on the mailing list. Like, that's it. That new addition on my house is just gone. Like, what a waste of. It's worse than college, which is bad enough. And it became like, well, okay, like how bad do I really just want to like sit there going deaf, talking to someone I can barely hear about guitar pedals that I don't care about for like 4 hours? I'm like, I don't care. You can kind of see that perhaps the rest of my zero cares about that a lot. Yeah. They're under a different banner now, and God bless them, because I think that's those guys' happy place. I just realized that my happy place is not the same happy place. You kind of. I just don't enjoy that at all.
You kind of switched, people in the band quite a bit in the beginning. Right?
Oh yeah, in the beginning, because we're trying to fix. But I had David and Mitch the whole time, and they're still together in Wolf Mass. Those are the two most rock solid guys. And early on, we had just like weird ideas about stuff. Figgles was in the band for a little bit, but the time commitment he couldn't do. Lots of fun.
Sure.
Like, I'd never been so fucked up just at practice. Like
hanging out with Figgles?
Yeah, it was like Saturday at 2 in the afternoon, and we're snorting Vicodins off the guitar amps and just drinking David's homemade mead in like a pint glass. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to be here for a while before I drive home, Dave. Like, that's fun. We're just watching movies. Like, so it was all right. But yeah, after a little while, when it ended up being Eric Pelkovich and David and Mitch, that stayed the same for actually a while, and that was what made me feel like, okay, this is really solid. This is really good. Like, we could kind of keep doing this, but then just the realities of like, dude, does anyone have? Are we going to go on tour for like 40 days in a row? Like, I feel like it's just too...
Just with those particular cats, you don't feel like they would have toured that?
No, well, they would have loved it too. But I think me and everyone included was just like, we had a couple of vehicles we tried to have, and then everyone lives in the city. Like, no members live out in the middle of nowhere where you can keep a vehicle in a pole barn. Like, I used to keep the SMB van down at Jake's until it stopped working. I'm like, you could just have the parts of this. I don't even care. He's like, all right. And then, like that, and then we'd have to go down there and get it and stuff. Like, it just was. Did
like, turn that thing into a dinosaur or anything?
He took the roof off, and it ended up being like a big panel on like a rat rod or something. And I think he might have been able to salvage parts of the engine, because I don't know what part of it stopped working. Right. And I didn't care. It had been paid off like all the way back in SMB and stuff.
I felt like that band was starting to gain traction around here. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like your songwriting had just ramped up. Right before you guys were, ready to call it quits or just kind of taking a break or whatever it was. I felt like you guys were picking up momentum. I felt like it was a good mix of styles when you were doing it. You know what I mean?
Artistically, I think that's the artistically, and then at the end, personnel wise, there was not a problem in the world. Like, those guys, I liked playing music with those guys. I liked doing that music. I liked the fact that everyone, is competent about all of their, it's like, our bass tones sounded good all the time. Like, everything always was like really nice.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, but I just feel like it was almost like $1 a day late and $1 short, where I'm like, oh, yeah, and if I was 27,
this would be
we would really, if all of us were 27 years old, we would have been like, well, fuck yeah, and maybe if it was 1992, like if a few things were way different and we were doing that exact thing we were doing, head charge might have been opening for us by 98 or so. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It might have been like this thing that's like, wow, this is way ahead of its time. It's really cool. I was pointing at my imaginary band on stage.
Yeah.
But it was just like, everybody's like 40 and it's all just like, oh my God, we've all been doing this for so long. And it's like, those guys kind of like playing local shows. I was like, I'm either doing this to really get it somewhere or not,
fuck this.
and just the uphill of it is so. Because even still spending the resources going on tour, it's like we're also just we took care of ourselves kind of, but we're pretty old in the face. There's always going to be some 19-year-olds doing backflips, doing whatever's new, who I have no grudge against. And honestly, I did give you a demo to play. That the inspiration of that was me listening to some very like now stuff by some very young people because like electronic, distorted, just complete trash and insanity is kind of in vogue. Like that can pack the myth again. And I'm not saying I made that because, now is my chance. I'm just doing that because I'm like, okay, I don't want to be in a band, but I will produce my own electronic music with vocals on it because I have all the things to do that. And I realize that that's like a good hobby for me so I don't go insane because all of my hobbies become jobbies. Like, I'm going to dick around with video. Now that's what I do. It's like, I could probably be a voiceover guy. Like, now that's what I do. It's like, people offered me money to go do stand-up. Like, now it's a job. Like, and that's all well and good, but I need something with no point. So, and hey, what is more pointless than putting out a record in 2021 or two? So I'm like, this will be. Well, and if anyone
podcast, YouTube, TikTok, all that's pretty much.
I made some money off TikTok.
Did you?
We can talk about that too. But before I got kicked off and had to start over. But
I love that. That was like the little. I got kicked off and I had to start over.
You know what though? That actually. I don't want to say it was good, but it sort of was because I made so many missteps trying to figure out what I was doing. Because like I had 127 followers for like the first 6 months that I had been doing it. And then I eventually started getting videos that had like hundreds of thousands of views, but I'd already gotten so many strikes from getting things taken down that I didn't know where the line was. I didn't know how to like not antagonize people. Like I do. But there's a righteous way to antagonize people in the comments, and I was just shitting on them like full on Triumph the insult comic dog. So they started mass reporting me for no reason. So I started making a little bit of money, and then I noticed that like my videos were just getting like 0 views for a while, 3. And I'm like, stuff that normally at least would have gotten a few hundred got nothing, and no one was seeing it.
They
and
just
I'm like,
tune you down or what?
Yeah, they do that, and if it goes on for long enough, people are like, by the way, that's never going to go away. There's nothing you can do. Because they'll be like, what? We didn't do anything. It's not a thing you can like contend with. It's better to start over. But that stated, I didn't delete all of those things I made. So I just took all the ones that are banked. I just wiped everything clean, changed my name and email address on there, started over with all the bangers. And now I've been on there for 9 days, and I'm back up to like 2,000 followers when it took me months to get to like 150. So I kind of, it's like I get it now. And I learned a trick this time around that has to be one of my most favorite things that I've ever been told by somebody, at least in the past however long, or maybe at least only about the internet. But still, people arguing in the comments raises visibility of something. Engagement doesn't matter if it's good or bad, whatever. I give you the medis, So all that, the fighting in that really made that visible, and that it's true of everything. That's how the internet works, and for good or bad, mostly bad. But I was like, okay, so I make, I make like satire, which, boy, that goes a lot of ways. Either you disagree with the message, you don't understand what satire is, a lot of people, and like whatever. You're like, what are these numbers totally accurate? I'm like, if you want to listen to me read out of the dictionary, you could go right ahead, my little friend on the spectrum, but that's not what I'm here to do. Like, there's probably other people that will sit there and tell you facts, and you can go, very good, and then that'll be that. But either way, it's a little contentious. So there's always going to be someone that just fights everybody. Like, I'll do something about why don't we just invade Texas? Because they're basically Sharia law now. So we did it over there. Blah, blah, blah. People are like, hey, well, actually, like, da-da-da-da. And so here's what you do. You notice them fighting with some people. You don't fight them. You take their comment and pin it to the top. You don't put your, because I usually would just pin my own thing up there, and they're like, no, when you notice that happening, stick it to the top. The next day, that kid had like 900, just this giant knockdown, dumpster fire, drag out fight.
No shit.
And it had like, it went from 20,000 views to like 50 overnight or something. Like it.
So if you bring up like a topic of something that people disagree on, as soon as they start going at it, you fucking pin them up.
Take the kid who will never back down from anything that just said the stupidest thing out of everybody and stick them right to the top so everyone can see it on their way in. And they will shit down his throat, and he will argue and fight. And the best part is, I dedicated a thank you video to him, and he's like, huh, in that thing, he's like, go off. You didn't even say anything to me. I'm like, yeah, I didn't do that. I'm just using you. Like, I don't.
You told him flat out.
Oh yeah, I just sat there because that turned into a big long thing. I was like, yeah, it's like I don't like Trump at all, but it's not. I'm not too stupid to not see how people do things. I'm like, yeah, all right, I just used you like him. I don't know, whatever. That's what people like you are for.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, well, I mean, mostly the people. He was like backing it up. He's like, they were saying some pretty dumb stuff. I mean, even they were being a little like he was trying to accuse them of being racist or something, even though he was being very pro-life dickhead guy. You know, like I was like, yeah, I'd still make a little money. It doesn't really matter like who wins. Like, I hope you did win all those fights. It doesn't make a difference to me. He's like, hey man, I don't care that you make money. Just the point is that da 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 da. And these people were like not really on your side. If you really went through and read that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't read those. Those are like bad for your mental health. And he never responded. I wonder if he went to rethink his life or hopefully kill himself. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that was like a really fun. And then of course that video, like everyone was just laughing at him.
So how do you actually make money off of that? Is it likes? Is it views? Is it?
It's a little murky because of course it is. But there's like this thing called the Creator Fund that you can join once you have 10,000 followers and can maintain more than 100,000 views in a month, which I was blowing away. I mean, 10,000 is not even that many followers, and that's kind of the thing. And so like when I had it going for a little bit, the metrics were kind of weird because it would be like 50,000 views could be anywhere between $50 or $500, and I think it was like, and 500 is a little high. I don't think it was not quite that much, but I think it was like the click through and the watch time and because the watch time on there is like a huge thing,
right? Like
if you can get it to like where people watch it more than once, so your average watch time is longer than the length of the video, it'll start going like really berserk. And the best way to do that is to keep them yelling at each other because it'll just keep going in the back. There's no way to stop it while you argue, so it just keeps going forever, and that's why that's so beneficial. Yeah. And so it's based off of some weird metric of all of those things. But there was a few things and I had to kind of draw because it's not like, oh, this video earned you this much. It'd be more like, oh, this quarter you got this many views and whatever, and then here's how much money you can withdraw after the grace time of whatever. We make it like really, really hard, and you're probably going to have to pay taxes on it. But I was like, when it was working right before I kind of got shadow banned for because of course I was like, I was already in trouble. I was already doomed. But then I was like, ooh, like I'm getting attention and I'm getting paid for it. So I'm going to put some really controversial stuff on there. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And I was like, okay, I think I see what happened here. But I was like, the amount of money that came in for what did happen, if I can do a better job from the ground up, it's like no joke, without even getting anywhere on YouTube and TikTok, I wouldn't put my faith in it. But I could probably say no to any project for however long that went for and just be like, nah, I just make my money doing this now.
Damn.
You absolutely could. And I'm not saying that's like a speedboat and shit.
No,
but I'm saying
that was really cool.
That's mortgage, groceries, bills, and fucking around a little. Right. And that's and then what? I just jack off on TikTok and that's like it. That's a lot of material to come up with. It's like 30 seconds at a time. I can turn one goofy comment into a week's worth of shit. I see Adam's on there. Hi, Adam. I can barely see from here because I'm an old man. But
Mr. Adam. Adam says, Mr. John got tired, which is completely understandable, like being home. And he says, gee, I wonder why you get kicked off of TikTok. Yeah. So that's when we talked about that, like you got kicked off of TikTok or whatever, and then you're like, well, now I know what to do. Yeah. And it's going to be
like getting that fantasy where you get reincarnated and you kind of just wake up in kindergarten, but you remember everything, and you're like, oh shit, 9th grade's going to be noted the Great Pussy Massacre of Richfield High School this time. Like, be nice to him. Right. No. Right. Wait, nah.
You got a sister?
Yeah, like that's. Again, like an adult's mind. So it almost was like that, where I'm like, oops, I know right what to do. It's funny, though, the same videos didn't get the same traction, but I think some of them came out after I had more followers and stuff. But also, the way that thing works, people don't really scroll back through your shit, and it just presents things all over. So after a certain amount of time goes by, and it totally dies down and no one's seen it, and you know it's a banger, it's like you can just post it again with different tags, and like you will get precisely 0 people complaining.
Right.
They'll be like, hey, I remember this one. That's the worst thing you're going to hear.
Yeah.
Be like, I keep seeing this, or did your old account get deleted or something? And
It happens a lot. A lot of people say that. A lot of the shadow bans, a lot of people getting, there's one drunk guy from like fucking Missouri or something that I follow. He's just a silly fucker. But his account, he had like 1 million followers or some crazy shit.
Yeah,
and then got shut down, and then had to start all over. But all of his videos were still there. So he must have just saved everything that he did too.
Yeah, and I make most of it. I don't use my actual phone for most of it. I actually film like in front of a green screen because it's like a lot of the same stuff that's on YouTube, but I'll just take it into smaller chunks and like take the most like visceral and enraging piece of it and just make it as short as I can and be like, here, like think about this for a while, fuckers, and then see what happens.
Well, it's only like what 15 seconds or some shit.
Oh, it can be as much as 3 minutes.
Well, I mean on YouTube, like the shorts. Do you?
Oh, the shorts? No, those can be a minute.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, that did me no good though. Those were like screaming into the void. Like the shorts on like a thing on TikTok that would get 280,000 views and like a 25% of that many likes or whatever. Like. Would get 6 views on YouTube. It was a joke. Like some people it took off, but I think they were just beta testing it when they wanted it to work really bad because TikTok's growth made all these other things like Facebook and Instagram. It's like upload a fucking TikTok-y looking thing, and then people just dump their TikTok like the logos are all over it and stuff. They're like, here, like fine.
Yep, that's what I was doing. I was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? TikTok allows you to, cut and paste and do all these things to it. And
I do like that they do let you just download anyone's videos pretty much, so you can like make the stuff I made. And I think I should be not doing this time. The way I would make fun, because I'm a video editor, so it's like the way I would edit things, I would like make people say stuff they didn't really say and be like, what are you talking about? Like, that would argue with me and stuff. Like, you said this on there. It's like, you did that. I'm like, that's you, isn't it? People be like, wow, what an asshole that kid is. I'm like, right? Like, yeah. And like, then someone would be like, I think you like edited it to like look like that. And I just wouldn't respond to them. And the comment would just die. Like,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but I think that might have led to trouble. I did every bad thing that I possibly could. And some of that is some of the stuff that got really big and then would go boop, it disappeared. It would like, I would watch things like just start, it would be like an hour later would have 35,000 views. I'm like, this is pretty, it's gone. But I would a lot of the time kind of know. I'm like, but it turns out you kind of take those likes with you. Like it's still on your scoreboard, but every time you get something taken down, you're one step closer to the fucking...
You're just moving to the edge.
Yeah,
just
the fucking walking the plank. That's it.
Into fucking oblivion and shit.
Yep.
So now I kind of derailed you from way back now.
I did that too.
Now we're talking about comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Before COVID or pre-COVID, right?
Yeah, for about a year. I got about a year in, I think, before it hit, and of doing like... the like scheduled shows, like the Monday night comedy show is like a booked show, like ahead of time, and then it's still like just a showcase. It's not like there's really like a headliner. It's just like here's a bunch of comedians. The order will be there when you show up. Who knows? And it'll probably change halfway through anyway because someone's late. Or something.
How do you sign up for things like that? How do you get involved in that?
You just talk to the people that run it. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's how I got into it. How I got into it was that I was getting more and more. I had not really listened to like I like comedy, but I didn't really listen to podcasts. Like I didn't do that like a ton, but because when I'm editing stuff with music on it over and over again, I was like, well, I can't listen to other music. That'll make me go crazy. But listening to this is making me go crazy. But I can kind of listen to someone talk. So I was like, and then having to drive way out to like So I got like started with Rogan and then kind of like learned who more people were, like Tom Segura and stuff, like Bert Kreischer. I kind of knew who that was, but I didn't know these guys very well, but they all have podcasts that are pretty funny. Sure. And I got into Your Mom's House, and then all their stories where I'm like, people have been like, hey, you're funny. Like, why don't you try doing stand-up? And, I learned that I had a slight advantage because I didn't really have the stage shakes. But I don't care who you are, starting doing that, it's hard, and you're going to do it really bad. And I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I was like, forgetting things, and I was writing too much. I wasn't comfortable enough to make up stuff on the fly like you can in your living room. Yeah. But transposing that guy with the smart remark up into a bunch of silent people staring at you in a room, like there's some people who it's 3 years just to get over the stage jitters. I got over that. I'm pretty comfortable up there, but still, nevertheless, the formula for doing it, no idea. But what happened is I was just talking about it a lot with like a friend of mine who used to go to the Monday night comedy show all the time. Yeah. And he was like, there is a thing, like it's not just like an open mic with 2 people at it at like a pizza place or something. Like it's not like it's always huge, but it's like you can talk to the guy. You could go to it a few times, like see what a local comedy show looks like. Yeah. And then and it's just at Club Underground, and Josh, Cavan is like the bartender and partial runner of the show, and I already know him, and like I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was like involved with that. Okay, well, yeah. And then I just kind of got chummy with the host and the booking people, and like I kind of was like, I'd like to try it, and I did a really bad job. But they're like, well, I mean, you're like wearing an ugly suit, and you're just like yelling at every. I mean, they were like, it was amusing. You didn't really get a lot of laughs, but it wasn't like, while you fumbled with your notes. You went up. It was what you'd expect.
Right.
It was a little unhinged and too loud and out of control, but. I kind of got the hang of it basically there, and then I started trying it at other places. Like I've driven out of town to do it now and stuff and whatever. But yeah, I got a year in, and then it was like, no more of this, but you can do it on a Zoom show. And I said, no way am I doing that. So then I started the YouTube channel to channel all my energy. The one thing led right into the other, and I almost didn't go back to comedy when the restrictions lifted, but then I did, and then it's like been more fun than ever now. So I'm like, I guess I'll just.
Now, when did you go back? Was it after we did the podcast together? I know you were talking about.
I think we did. Yeah, I think I hadn't gone up again by then because I was almost like maybe not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know. I like doing the YouTube thing and I like whatever, but then I realized that I'm like, if I really want to learn how to be really funny and put my money where my mouth is, because I always like to assume that I could walk into a motivational teaching or speaking or teaching job and just like absolutely like. Kill and be like, oh, I can just stand in front of people. But it's like, until you do it, like, again, I have a better time than some, but really practicing doing stand-up, you become invincible. You no longer care. You got something real quick for what anybody says. Like, you just become actually relaxed up there. And you can't get there until you just do it a bunch of times. And that was where I was like, I need to actually, I think I'm one of those people that likes to think I would be like, well, if I was the baseball player on that team, I'd be doing better than that bum. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. You get your fucking ass handed to you dumbass. But like,
fuck this thing.
Like you did pretty good in Little League, and then you're like, no, I could beat you all in baseball. It's like I could beat anyone here in a fight. It's like, no, you can't. You would absolutely get murdered by it. And so would I.
Right.
And I wouldn't be funny if I hadn't tried like dozens of times in a row to be like, all right, I'm going to go up there again. I'm going to keep my thoughts in order. And actually, I'm just not even going to think about them. I'm just going to let them come. And if I think of something else funny, I'll just go in that direction and come back. I'll have the confidence that I won't lose my place.
Now, did you write a lot of things down before you did it the first time?
Way too many.
Did you?
I didn't read it up there, but I would write what was almost like kind of like a thoughtful like article that's kind of funny.
Sure.
And try to like speed talk that into like 5 minutes. And people were like, what are you like? I was going too fast. I wasn't really like, when it would get like a little titter, I would just keep talking over it so I didn't run out of time. Now I'll write like one sort of like funny, interesting thing per minute that I have up there.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of like add to it in my phone a little, like make sure to mention this, make sure. But then I will just leave it because I would get really, really overly focused on these like $5 words.
Sure.
Be like, well, and he found himself to be in quite an introspective, but that doesn't matter because whatever you say in the moment in front of those people, reflecting their actual energy that hopefully you've been kind of paying a little bit of attention to with the other comics going up, they're going to react so much more if it feels kind of tailor-made to the moment, and it never will if you're just reciting something that you just wrote down. So I learned that the hard way.
Well,
the only way to learn it.
I'd always heard, Carlin used to do that, from what I heard.
Yes.
To be able to recite everything.
And that's the thing. If you watch the videos, like he is on rails. Like he will continue going. Like he clearly wrote pauses for laughs, but he starts when he starts.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't wait. He doesn't comment on someone laughed a little too long and we're like, well, apparently that guy understands better than the rest of you. Like he just would never do anything like that. He would just and everybody like. I'm like, oh, well, baby, I'll be the next Carlin. Like, you'll be lucky if you're the next fucking Weird Al. It's not, which actually that's a bad example because he's like one of the most talented people in the world. Huge. But yeah, and he's so good at everything he does. But either way, I couldn't think of a boring comedian. But, that's, I learned to just, if I want to eventually be a guy that can tell a funny story full of punchlines that's an hour long, I need to just learn to tell 5 funny jokes with like an extra twist every other joke that fit about into 5 minutes, and maybe the first minute is making fun of stuff other people said.
Yeah,
that's actually, I'm realizing how important that is. That's a real funny thing because watching people, I've learned a lot of stuff that I hate, that I don't want to do. Like so many people's opening thing is
other comedians
who, even if the rest of their stuff is funny and if I like them, but there's a thing that some people do and some people don't, and I hate when people do it, and they just have to make fun of whatever how it's like, I kind of look like a stoned Q-tip, like, I'm like, God damn, I hate that so much. Or someone's clearly got like dreadlocks and they're all weird, and they're like, can you believe I'm somebody's dad? And you always get a laugh. It's like, it's not everybody's a dad. Like it's not actually funny. I've found the best, one of my favorite things, I think I actually filmed it, but one of my favorite things I got a good laugh out of was that we did a clean comedy night and everybody was just making fun of it.
I saw you posting that. I saw you talking about how hard it would be to do that. Was it fucking super hard?
It was, well, no, because everyone just, including me, just broke the rule. I just made fun of how dumb clean comedy is.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, because they always end up being the perverts and stuff because, you can't keep that inside.
Right.
Who is that for? I said, like, who is clean comedy even for? Like, no one wants to see it. Like, it's just something you have to do because there's a thing with kids at it. You're like, oh, God. Like, no one enjoys it. Yeah. And they're like, people who actually enjoy it are weirdos that deserve to get shot in the face. And everyone's just like, no one laughed. And I was like, with cum. And then they laughed. And like, I like how I softened the blow with cum.
I saw that.
But I saw that. Thing before that, the kid before me, who's very funny, his name's Aaron, that I kind of made friends with. He's this short black kid with like this huge fro. He's this really like unassuming seeming guy, but the shit that comes out of his mouth is grade A stuff. And he's allowed to, but he sure dropped the N-bomb with a hard R. Right, and the way he did it was very funny and very jarring.
Yeah.
And then I went up there after him. I was like, I'm so glad, and it was, speaking of commenting on I'm so glad that the clean comedy night where everyone has a goof dressed up in sweaters of the years I've been coming to this show is the first time I heard the N-word get yelled at the top of someone's lungs on this stage.
Right.
And everyone laughed because they saw that and reacted to it. And I'm like, oh, that's a thing that other comics do too. I just prefer the trick of comment on the evening rather than going like, oh, this sweater makes me look like a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me like, maybe it makes some people like you more, but it makes me like you less.
Yeah.
And people like look up to like Segura and Christina P are like, oh, I hate that too. I'm like, well, okay. Then if they hate it, I hate it.
Yeah. That's fucking hilarious. Let me see here. What do we got? My 15-year-old is dirtier than me. Crystal, I believe that. My 14-year-old has dude, she'll just fucking out of the blue start yelling penis, and I'm just going, what are you fucking yelling penis for? You know what I mean?
Because you grew up with the internet. That's why.
Pretty much. Clean comedy is for suburban moms. Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, who I have nothing in common with except for the ones I've fucked, but that's it.
Who are obsessed with Disney Plus, and Hallmark Channel.
Yeah. But you know, they want to hear something dirty over their margaritas with all their other friends too, and it's like, so it's just a show. Like, they don't really, like, Adam, I hear you, but I think deep down, they're just pretending they want clean comedy. Right. Like, they really want to talk about dicks and get drunk and whatever, but then they're like, oh, the kids are here. Just talk about how it's silly when dad forgets to put the seat down. Like, oh, you're not enjoying this.
Right.
No one is. The guy saying it isn't because he's getting forced to. They're like, keep it clean. The guy running the show is a soulless weirdo. And there's apparently in this town, like the Southtown area, or the Southdale Mall, there is like a comedy place, but it's only clean. That's why like you've never heard of anyone going there.
Really?
But it like exists. It's not like the place in the Mall of America that's like a real place that's been there forever and has big comics like Stanhope,
Rick Bronson or something.
Yeah, that's like a real thing. But there's one in the Southdale Mall that's like only clean and like we have to go there. I don't know. I'm actually like, now that I'm saying all this out loud, like I have to see what that is.
Yeah.
Because it's like church clean.
Now, are there multiple comedy rooms in the Twin Cities? I know wasn't there one down towards Mendota Heights or something? There's one down there.
Well, there's a lot of places that are kind of like bars that definitely do comedy, which is the Monday night. You know, it's just that Club Underground. And
sure.
I mean, they have more than just that show there. But it's like I feel like they have almost as many comedy shows as metal shows at Club Underground. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it's a more common thing, but. As far as like bolted down places, it's like the place in the Mall of America, Acme, which is like that's our First Ave, that's our famous, you know, whatever. Right. And then there's like the Corner something club or what? It's on like West Bank somewhere.
Okay.
And I've never been in there either though because it's just that area where like driving to, unless you just happen to live by there, then it's fine. But if you want to like go park your car somewhere, it's like, this is a nightmare. Like, I don't really feel like, but apparently it's cool. Like, it's a cool, like claustrophobic little spot and it's like downstairs and everybody's, you know, a gritty comic or whatever.
I could see fucking Club Underground being fun to do that. I mean, I'm super comfortable in that room.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've been there so many times. But yeah, it's got the nice low ceiling. You feel kind of cozy with everybody, which For comedy, I mean, as far as I can tell, how you want to feel is like you're the life of a really good party where everyone's paying attention to you.
Yeah, you're
like,
holding court.
Yeah, you're holding court.
Yeah.
Shows can be a little bit more like, okay, we have like guitars and things here. It's like you're separated, and at big shows, there's like people, you know, like keeping you from bothering Marilyn Manson or whatever. And like, but you know, comedy is like you're supposed to just feel like you're talking to someone you're talking to.
Right.
Like which is a really interesting thing too. Like even I've had to learn to drop my affectation and not give it like I'm giving a speech. I have to try to do it more like, yeah, I was doing this and that, but instead of being like, well, here's the thing that happened. When I went, like, don't do that, because then you're Seinfelding at him. Like, just be like, yeah, and then, you know, when I'm throwing up in the car, the trick is to just drive with your knee. Like, you just say it like you're telling somebody something and leave a little space.
Yeah.
I shorten that one a lot because I didn't want to. But, yeah, like, everywhere that, like how people keep that going in theaters and stuff, like that has to be like a completely different skill set that you have to
relearn. It'd be a fucking wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it seems like it would be a wave. Like you would hear, you know, some laughter here, some laughter here, or like that echo would throw me off if that.
No, they're always like it's awesome, but it is like they are like it is cooler to drop into a place that holds like 150 people or whatever than it is to like, yeah, it's great when your career is there, but it's like, and it's neat if you really have them going, but it is like everybody that does it holds a place in their heart. And I can see it because you want to feel like you could kind of mess with people. You know,
I mean,
who's that guy over there?
what's an average Monday night comedy thing? Like how many people you think are there usually?
I mean, there's anywhere, I mean, I have a conspiracy theory going that I think, well, just that like, I don't think it's a coincidence. I just don't want this to sound like I'm saying what it sounds like I'm saying, but like I'll go there when I'm not going up, and there could be anywhere from like 5 to like pretty much just the comedians, but then me and David Murder are just there or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But it feels like whenever I go up, there's a decent amount of people, and I don't know if I've gotten lucky a million times or if it's that thing where it's like comedy just works so different from music. Like just because I have a little bit more of a social media reach, maybe not everybody thinks I'm funny or great or interesting, but they just kind of are more aware of it when I'm doing it.
Right.
Because just out of everyone that does it, I have the ability to get at. So there's people that aren't going to come up and talk to me.
Sure.
But if I bump into them, and this has happened a lot in comedy too, I keep realizing that even other comics like I've run into before, but it's been years, and they're just like, hey, by the way, Miss Monkey Boner, you know? I'm like, oh my God, can I, you know, it's like fucking Fight Club. Like, can I get away from this a little bit? It's just kind of like, hey, that was pretty funny, man. Thanks a lot, sir. Like, like, right. But that stated, I mean, they set out tables and chairs, so it can only get so crowded. There've been some special event nights where they've had some notable people, like Fancy Ray will go up there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it'll be like, then it's like all tables and chairs filled with people standing in the back and sitting on the couches, and it can, bars like packed. Like, I've seen it get a little crazy in there. But, yeah, it really, the first one I went to had, like, my table of my old roommates from back in the day, and then, like, another table had, like, I think one of the guys, who was it? Was it Link from fucking, that band from around here? What the fuck are they called? Buried Above Ground? Yeah. Those guys, right?
Yeah.
That was a band. Yeah. It's just,
that was a band.
Oh, it's getting to be so long ago now that I was at shows and things. But yeah, their drummer, I think, was there with like some friends because they knew someone going up, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And so I was just able to kind of talk to the booking guy.
So are there people like new people popping up quite a bit?
Yeah, it's an interesting mix, and they also at that particular show have gotten better about. They've kind of shuffled booking people around, and the gal doing it now does a really good job of like it's like, okay, it's 8 comics and they each get 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Andy the host he's too much of a big cuddly bear, and he will just, there was a while there when he's like, okay, there's like 19, I guess we'll all have to shorten it to 6 minutes or 5 maybe, and then he'll go on for a bit. Like, Andy, it is fucking 1 a.m. Like, this thing's supposed to be like maybe 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Because that's as much as you can stand being quiet and not talking to people next to you. Like, there's a lot of them that are just like 90 minutes. Like the one my friend Sydney does at Mortimer's is like 8 to 9:30, I think, officially. Like comic, so it's like, yeah, people can get there a half hour early and sit down and order a beer, and then it's like 8 to 9:30, and then it is over.
No shit.
And it's like, yeah, and that's,
they're pretty strict about it.
yeah, and it's also, I mean, Mortimer's, I think it's because there's usually like maybe a band on later or something at a separate thing that people got to start paying to come into, but I think it's also just that, like, I don't think you can have a small comedy show just run forever, because the idea that people are going to sit there and pay, because people have to pay attention. That's why people are like, oh, what, you could just have a comedian open for this metal band. I'm like, no. It has to be like quiet. People have to focus, because you'll say something subtle and you'll leave a space for a laugh. You can't have people yelling in between it. It just doesn't. You could have Sam Kinison do it or something like that, but you
just to blast the whole room.
Yeah, if you had someone just running around screaming at everybody like Hitler, it's like, yeah, okay, like that'll work. But anyone subtle, which is most comics really, it's like they leave empty space. You use empty space, and if it just gets stepped on by people yelling all over the place, like it doesn't work. So you
throws off your cadence.
It just monkeys up the joke, and people will be like, oh, that would have been funny if I heard the last part of it. And,
right.
So you kind of, I think the wise thing to do is just to keep it to enough time that people can sit still and really give it what is it? Because 90 minutes is about a circadian rhythm, I think. They studied that in school. Like every 90 minutes, you kind of like drop off of whatever you're paying. It's why movies used to be that long.
Right, okay.
Like there was reasoning behind that where you just, I don't care who you are, how much Adderall you're on, like you can't fully just dead ass pay attention to something for 4 solid hours without interruption. Like you will end up not paying attention to parts of it, and you will miss something that might have been better just to be put on a different night on a shorter,
fucking even an hour. You know what I mean? Like even a good comic, if they're not fucking firing.
Oh, you got to do your job in that time too. But at the very least, a competent host and people switching out will kind of razzle dazzle it up. And then if somebody's just totally boring and crappy, it's like, well, now they're gone though, and maybe this lady's really funny. I don't know. Like you just get to find it. You're opening a new mystery box every time, and I think that can hold people for a while, particularly if you got more than. You only got a couple duds. It was mostly good. Then you can kind of go longer. But when it's just like, Andy, there has been like 32 people.
How long did it feel for you that you started to kind of catch your rhythm in things in the first year of you doing it?
I think I was pretty goddamn bad all the way up until COVID hit. Like I still didn't know exactly what I was doing. Like I had a couple of good ones. I think Adam saw one of my maybe better ones actually, like kind of before that ended. But I was still kind of overwriting, and basically, like, I don't know what happened. That first time I came back, I just did it more like how it is on that video where I'm not rambling. I'm not doing what I'm doing to you right now on stage, which is what I kind of was doing.
Yeah.
I was actually, like, doing it like a comic, and I think part of it was I had some time to think about it, or my spirit was broken from COVID, so I just slowed down a little. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But then I started getting way better feedback, like way more laughs, and then my brain went like, that's right, stupid. Quit saying like so much. Slow down. Write less stuff, because you can go up and tell the other ones later, and half of it's not funny anyway, and you'll find out when you go up there that that's the case.
Now, with the people that you're interacting with, the other comics and the people, now, within that time frame, did you meet a lot of those people? Did you talk to a lot of those people? Did you just kind of watch them and feel how things were done? Or
that's the really funny thing about this, is that I kind of came out of it knowing a couple of people.
Okay.
Way less than you'd think, though.
Sure.
Comics are weird, and I'm right now, all I am is a local comic, so I'm not using this as an other, but local comics are, there's some that are real holly jolly and fun, like how you'd expect when you listen to the podcast from all the famous ones, like they'd be like a riot to hang out with. They are people that seems like they've eaten like 100 milligrams of weed, and they're just like not happy to be there. And it's just, I'm like, hey guys, and they're like, hey, yeah. Like, it's just like, and it's not being aloof either. I think they're just damaged, and it's like the ones that are damaged but like managing get famous, and the ones that are damaged and doing the same rooms I am are kind of like, yeah, man, I thought I'd like be somewhere by now, and then they go up and it's just the same jokes that never get a laugh, and I'm like, okay, I think you're a sad man, and I think this is weird, but not everybody, and the ones that aren't, I get along with pretty well, and it's great. It's just it's really, really interesting, like who you make friends with. Like the show at Mortimer's, talking to Sydney is fun, and then he runs a show, and he's like, why don't you come on over and do this one and whatever. But like, and some people, they're just so introverted when they're not on stage that I don't even know how to. Because I mean, I'm not terribly introverted, so like I was like, dude, hey, what are we doing?
I remember the band stuff, and I remember you interacting with people in between songs and always having a good rapport with people. Like you would be able to fire things off very quickly. But then I could see you, like you said, just the way you described it, like ranting, going fast with it. And then I saw some of the stuff that you've done recently that you've posted, and you can see you're kind of dialing it back, and I could tell, like, it seems like you're letting it breathe more.
Yeah, and that is definitely what you're supposed to do, and it's still not just knowing that that's what you're supposed to do doesn't make it easy. Well, it makes it easier than not knowing what you're doing at all, but. Yeah, it's a thing where when people talk about being rusty, they're like, "What do you mean? You went up there and you're fine." Like, now when your timing is perfect, it's amazing. Right. When you see people that like really know
crushing it,
right when to not say anything and then say something and it's the exact right thing, that kind of takes doing it. And man, I feel like comfortable up there, but that I've probably said stuff that on paper is pretty funny and still not had a laugh because I just didn't quite let it hang the right way. And it's. Man, it's just, but that's the thing. It's fun. That's why I say it's my karaoke. It's like, I'm kind of just interested in getting as good at it as I can because what I would have to go through between being nobody and somebody at it is like 10 years of truck stop. And I kind of like owning a house. Like, I'm like, I'll just get as good as I can and then put more weird stuff on the internet. I don't. Right. Again, that whole road thing really burned me out good. Yeah. I did it so much.
I bet, you know, and fucking really struggling with it and fucking scraping and scrounging and fucking having, you know, 3-4 guys or, you know, how many cats you had in your band. And, you know, that's tough too. Smelling the same fart every day.
You really have to get along with, man, the Blue Felix bus was the most people that we've ever, because it would be like, there's one point, I think there was like 6 people in the band and just as many bus drivers and weirdos and people that were helping
hangers
Jake
on and
used to go to high school with and whatever and like 12 people on just rolling around for 30 days straight to like Stumpy's dump in Pascagoula, Mississippi and just getting in trouble constantly and it's fun, but then it just is, you know, I'd start having a cold the minute I stepped on the bus, and it wouldn't be gone until 2 weeks after we got home. Bus lung, I call it.
Just because everybody's just fucking.
Oh God, it's so gross. Like I'm not dry the whole time. Like, and I'm not, you know, like I'm not someone that needs things to be really great, but it's just more that like.
I think the older you get, the older you get, it starts to ramp up a little bit more, and you just kind of like. I was telling somebody about that. I went to South Dakota right when the restrictions were being lifted. I mean, South Dakota didn't have any at the time.
Like, what happened? A bunch of people died, but
after you know, it started lifting here. I went to a show out there, and it felt like I went to a hotel, and it wasn't where my wife likes to be. You know what I'm saying? It was like where I used to.
Where I was okay with.
I didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I walked into this fucking motel, and I'm just like, all right, I'm checking the bed for bugs. You know what I mean? That type of shit. And I'm just going, you know, 5, 6, 7 years before that, I'd been like, fucking throwing beer everywhere.
Just eat the bed bugs.
Yep, doing blow everywhere. And fucking, was that a bug I just snorted? No big deal. You know,
it livens it up a little bit. That was a lot of it. I was actually took stock going back to the band thing slightly like that. I was like, how big would we have to be before this stopped being miserable? And it's like nowhere I could ever imagine getting in my career. Right. I was like, well, you could be playing like sold out triple rocks and machine shops across the country and sort of a bus that works. I'm like, that sounds like that would have been a dream at one point. I'm like, God, it sounds like hell. I don't want to do this.
If you had a pocket Jake, you know what I mean? Oh, van broke down. There's Jake
and even
fixing it.
Even then, we'd still end up late and with just like, because he could fix it, but then we'd be fucked over with everything else when we got there. And my patience are, depending on who you ask, either pretty good or non-existent. And like I've learned
what the fuck are you doing?
I've learned to just go lay down, which I ended up laying down a lot onto them and be like, I'll just be out whenever this is fucking figured out or it's not figured out and we're going home. I don't care. I'm gonna
You're just on your phone, fucking fuck shit.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'll just try to sleep. I'll be up all night drunk later. So whatever.
Now, you did say kind of when COVID hit, you did start the Alchemical Lounge, right?
Yeah, that was a COVID project.
Now, how did you? What made you start doing that?
That I really don't know. I don't know why. I guess my friend Meredith, who was helping with it kind of more in the beginning, but I think it was because I could, for one. COVID was another thing. You know, we were just getting like fucking. I was busier than ever, but doing things where they're just like, can you make us like a lyric video? Like I was just like not having to go anywhere, but still getting paid a lot. And like, I was like, okay, you know, whatever. So I think it just came from the fact that I was like, well, I have silly things to say and I can't say them anywhere. I'm not in a band. And at that time, I was like producing some stuff for people, but I had no interest in writing anything. I didn't know what to say. Came up with some stuff after COVID, but I I got a little angry again. But at that time, I was like, I don't know, and I just bought a house. Like, things are kind of good. Like, I have nothing to complain about, but I have all these goofs. I have all these jokes and all this weird shit I wrote that is gonna probably like be unusable by the time we're out of this anyhow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just use my green screen and camera shit and lights and microphones and just whatever. And I started adopting just speed running it. Like, let's see how fast I can make fun of something that happened. Like, I think I made that dumb news thing about the Texas abortion and Taliban thing, like days after the news came out. It was done. And I mean, it was a shorter one, but I was like, I'll just leave everything set up down there because I have the room. I'm not renting a place with 1 million people. It's just me and my wife in a house. Downstairs has the green screen and a bunch of stuff in it. I'm like, okay, so that's just there. Just lights on, camera on, go. Put on suit and tie, wearing sweatpants under the table, can't see. Just like, all right, blah, 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 blah. Couple of takes. Yeah, that one's good. Okay, put it out. Erase green. I use the same background animation, so it's like, that's already done. Just stick that in green screen. And so it kind of started as a dumping ground for what I already had, and then it evolved into like, how can I be a better satirist and commentator of things as fast as I possibly can? And then talking to Jared and stuff, I've decided to try to be a little bit more regular with the podcast too, even though it's just stupid. But I'm like, I'm still going to put it out every week. Yeah. Like, I don't care if it's just us talking shit, or like sometimes we have people over. Like, there's one microphone in the middle of the table, no headphones, one camera. I don't care. Yeah. Like, if it's all just automated, I'm like, I'm not going to edit anything in or out of this. Yeah. But I kind of wanted to, at least have that. So if someone wanted to be like, how can I come join you for something? I was like, well, we have to have this edifice like set up. Sure. So we can have a guest, when one shows up or whatever. Like, because, Jared and I were talking about that too. It's like, well, maybe it could be like a guest character in a thing. And I'm like, I don't quite know how to make that make any sense yet for what I'm doing. I'll probably figure it out. Sure. In some of those longer videos that had like Ethereal Rose in it and stuff, were like the really complicated commentaries that I think were a little too long and weird for people. But I kind of had friends play guest actors in it. I had another guy running puppets, and that wasn't involved other people, sort of, but those took so long to make. Yeah. But
multiple takes with everyone, things like that.
So much shit, so many
because
layers. I was building all those backgrounds in Photoshop and like putting them into the green screen stuff, and
well, I can imagine you being kind of like, when you're doing it yourself and you've got your own stuff written and you're just kind of unloading that type of stuff, but then you incorporate other people into your skits or do anything like that. No. That's not how you want to do it. You got to do it like this. Was there a lot of takes? Was there a lot of...
Luckily, while I was still doing those longer ones, the series was called I've Never Thought About It Like That. While I was doing that, the only people that ended up doing it were really good at it. Yeah. Like Anthony and Ethereal in that one were very like, all right, just do it like you're a person from this movie. And she'd be like, okay, like this, and like, and like I only had her do extra takes just to have them. Most of the time she would just do it, right? And then like, Anthony was just supposed to be like a future warlord guy, and like be like blah 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 blah. And it's like that was actually pretty easy, but it was more like scheduling it. It was like my stuff took like more than one day. The puppets had to be a whole different day of setting up everything totally differently to make that work. It's like, well, when can Ethereal get over here? Like, when can Anthony get over here?
She's pretty busy too, right?
She is too. And so just having, and I'd have her do it again, but that particular series was just so.
Dude, is that chick like 7 feet tall? She looks like she's super tall.
She's pretty tall. She's not like weird tall, but I think she's like, my height, which or maybe a little taller than me. I can't really remember because she was over on the podcast, but I haven't seen her in a little while. Ethereal, if you're watching, I guess we'll have to do another one. But she's. I wish. I'm not gonna say anything specific, but she was telling me shit before the podcast. I'm like, can you please say that on here? She's like, I really probably shouldn't. And I mean, she was probably right that she shouldn't, but I was like, I loved just how casually she was telling me about. I'll just label it as murder and mayhem. Yeah. Maybe there was murder, maybe not. But just telling me like she was telling me about like how the weather was outside. And I'm like, can we please do this with a camera? Yeah. Obviously we couldn't. But
dude, that's how I felt with Jake a lot when Jake came on the podcast. It was like, the stories he told off the air were fucking 20 times better than the shit he told. And all the ones he told on the air were great. But the shit he told me off the air, I was like, fuck yeah, why can't you tell this stuff? No, I don't want to incriminate anybody. I don't want to
he used to be a little more afraid because I've chipped away at him.
Yeah.
Because like we hang out a lot still, and actually probably more than before if you minus the actual time spent in band. But I think I've kind of been like, yeah, man, like, what is gonna happen? Like, who can? Oh yeah. He's a little more open. Like when he was telling the Amsterdam prostitute story on that one podcast and stuff. It's like I think a few years ago he may not have wanted to say. He'd be like, well, I probably shouldn't. Whatever. Now he's just like, yeah. So it's like she had finger in butthole, and we were over. I was digging in the garbage looking for old condoms, and I was like, and like whatever. It's like I think he's gotten just because I've sort of. You know, him and Ailey are always putting things on TikTok. I think they've gotten more comfortable being a bit more like casual. The whole world, everything's on. It's like, who gives a shit? And plus, like, we had a big talk once about how, like, people want us to be like that. Yeah. Like, it's not like Pee Wee Herman, where it's like, oh my God, he was a kid's entertainer. It's like, we're already famous for jacking off in the movie theater. It's like, that's what everyone expects from us. Like,
but there's no jack off stories. What the fuck?
Yeah,
they're giving me the G stories.
It's like, you guys are jacking off in the movie theater. It's like, yeah, that's what a half of our show was. Like, what are you complaining about? Like, oh yeah, right. The people that get in the most trouble are people who are like, oh yeah, no, I'm not weird at all, and then they're totally weird. But if your whole thing is that you're already a disgusting weirdo, I mean, what? Be like, there was no scandals with Hunter S. Thompson,
right?
Like he had cocaine and he shot a gun at somebody, like nothing happened. Because they're like, well, yeah, of course he did. What?
Yep.
It's not like
for the normal people, they were like, this fucking guy's absolutely nuts.
Like, yeah,
I know so many people that are like that. You know what I mean? They get all whacked out, they're shooting guns and they're acting crazy. It's just, since I was a kid, that's just how it was, man. I don't know if it was the people I was around or what the fuck, but
probably. But it's different when Mr. Rogers does it.
Right.
You know, it's like your high school principal can't act like that.
Rum Dumpster. That name was taken from what I call my wife my cum dumpster.
But Adam, you didn't invent cum dumpster. I've been calling girls that since 1996. Like I don't. But yeah, you did say that in front of me once. I remember that. That might have got me thinking about it. I'll say that. That I was like, ooh, rum dumpster.
So it was a way to let loose some of the goofs that you had.
Yeah, there was nowhere else for it to go. Like, what was I going to do? Type it as statuses on Facebook just for like nobody to care about?
Yeah,
like,
all right. Like, I get what you're saying. I don't think I agree with you.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, I guess. But like, nothing's as funny when it's written either. Right. It's always like when you're. People take something from a comedy special and they're just like, and that's why you should never give to charity. Well, that's not very funny. I'm like, yeah, that's like one part of this long, complicated thing. Like,
right.
And it's all made up anyway. It's a joke. And then they're like, well, you shouldn't say that. Like, oh, God. But I figured that medium. And also getting comfy in front of the camera, too. Because honestly, that was kind of new. Like, I can stand now looking at myself and hearing my own voice, which I couldn't. Yeah. I've edited so many hours of me that it's like just. Is it just like? Well, it's like watching somebody else. I'm like, oh, that guy was kind of. When he said that, it was dumb. Well, I should probably take that out. So he's not. Well, that's me. But you get into that thing where you just feel like you're doing it for whoever else. Yeah. And then you start making better calls with it.
Yeah.
Because you're not like, well, I don't want to embarrass myself. I'm like, oh, when he said that was funny. And then if you act like it's someone else, you'll put the funnier parts in and not try to save face and be cool and. Yeah. You don't want to do that. No one wants to watch you be cool or think about what you're doing. That's stupid.
But I feel like you've really grown into the whole, like, I put Anchorman on here.
I like that, by the way. I was happy about
when we were going to do the podcast before.
Yeah. No, I appreciated that because it felt good.
No, man, it felt like you were really growing into that spot, man. Like the fucking hilarious news shit, man. I would fucking.
Well, I'm gonna keep going with that one.
Scrolling, dude, and I would see one of those instantly. I would stop and go, "Oh my God, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good." You know what I mean? Because you've always been good at the rants. You know what I mean? Like you go once you're like a top man. Once you fucking go, you're going. You know?
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Good. I hope so because here we are. But The Newsway was a way to sort of like kind of like temper the rants a little, you know, because rather than just yelling everything at the audience, which is sort of what I was doing in the early videos, I realized that what I should do, because you know, the gag is always I get it wrong, where I'm like, well, they must have been taken over by the Taliban, or you know, blah blah blah. I'm like, wait, So they're just doing that. I'm getting like a
Yes.
That's for whatever reason that's kind of worked for people where it's like presenting it like saying the thing that you'd say to make fun of it as if that's factually what happened, and then going like, you're not telling me that this is another thing they think is the mark of the beast. They've been talking about that since Ronald Reagan's fucking name, and most of them voted for him. What the hell? Like that exasperation, because again, that's how the people who are watching me feel about the stuff that's happening that I'm talking about. And I learned that from stand-up.
Right. I don't think he's right about that. He's not. This isn't real. That
It's such a good out too, because I start with something that's completely untrue. So someone tries to call me on the later part where I'm like, "Oh, this is happening." Like, well, it's not actually not really how it works. I'm like, "Yeah," and the sun didn't explode like I said it did in the beginning either, dum dum. Like, and then they're like, "Well, you know what I mean?" I'm like, "No, they don't answer me then." But the stand-up thing did help me create that segment, because I started to understand that it's more about saying what the audience is thinking, how they're thinking it, that was just on the tip of their tongue the whole time, that they never like that's the art to it, I think, where you're like, I get a lot, somebody finally said it. That's like the most common thing I get commented on all over everything. Be like, I've been thinking about this forever, and this makes too much sense. Like, that's what you want, wherever you're not, like, even, lyrics back in the day where some people who would read into it and actually pay attention a bit more, that was not the majority. But when they would, they'd be like, oh, yeah, I listen to this because it's like, you seem to see what's really going on. Right. And that's... And I missed that, and I was like, how do I do that this way, though? Because I have no idea. Like, I used to just yell and scream everything, and no one could understand me anyway. And now I'm like, okay, let's really learn how to do satire. Let's really learn how to do stand-up. Like, let's really learn how to do all these things that, since you're not going to be a touring metal guy anymore, like, that you have time to do, and then don't do them half-assed. Do them right. Do them so that other people go, how come you're not more famous, rather than you complaining that you're not. You know what I mean? Like, let them go, this should be bigger. Because if you're sitting there making stuff no one cares about, going, I don't understand why this is more popular. It's like, that's where we've all been with so many things that we look back on. Well, of course this went nowhere, goal is to never let that happen. Just be... And I don't care what happens with it. Like, I hope for the best with anything that I do, but I want to be able to just do it and let the world go, how come this hasn't gathered more steam? So I can just be like, oh, no, man, I'm just doing it. And then at that point, maybe you get lucky. I don't know. But at least you feel good about what you're putting out.
No, I mean, are you this comedy thing, is this something that you're going to continue to do, or are you just...
Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. I don't know that it's going to scale any. Yeah. Like, I think I can probably get very good at it without having to start being like a road comic. I do not want to do that. I would much rather just be like, make friends with people who run the shows. Like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? You want to, like, all right, sure. Yeah, I'll do. If I gotta fill 15 minutes, I probably, yeah, I know I got some stuff that's always kind of funny. This is a little out of date now. I always want to have it there, but I guess I'm landing. The only place where I'm really like drawing the line is not having like insane dreams of grandeur, like I'm gonna be as big as Bill Burr, and then I'm gonna do this because I know what that takes, and like I don't know, global warming. I might live that long, but I don't know if the planet even will. Like I'm like, man, this takes a long time and a lot of luck. So what I would rather do is just have it be my thing that I do instead of playing local shows. I'm like, yeah, I'll just get up and do comedy every once in a while. I'll still be out there,
You said something that really struck home for me as far as like fun things that you like to do becoming a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how now with the video stuff, you still do lots of video stuff.
Yeah, that's mostly what I do.
Now when it started to become a job, did you scale things to where like this is super fun, this is super fun, this is super fun, now it's work, and now you're like, okay, this isn't as fun because now I'm really having to work for it. Well, now I'm going to like scale it to charge a little bit more so I don't have, a lot of shit that I don't want to do coming in? Or are you very selective with your video work now?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So basically at a certain point, what I started to do was learn how to do other things. And I will admit to being a big bitch about it. I would see people that knew how to do like VFX and like all sorts of things. And I'm like, I'm not some kid with all the time in the world to like learn this. Same thing I've been saying about everything else that I've been doing, though. I'm like, what is stopping you? And also, that of all things, it's like, that's just money on the table if you get the hang of it. Everything you would ever need to know is on YouTube. Fucking After Effects came with Photoshop and Premiere. It's the same program they use to make Marvel movies. Yeah, on like 100 huge computers. but it's the same one.
Right.
It's the same one with the same guts to it that you can do. If you had enough CPU power and people, you could do all the same shit. Like, so it's all out there. The limit is just, how much you can retain and how much you can at least keep in cliff notes to go back to, which that's one of those skill sets where it's like, it's one of the first ones where I've really had to start doing that. I'd be like, go back and be like, okay, how the fuck do you do that thing where it makes it look like the screen's jittering like old film and have it look just like, how do you make lightning look just right, like coming out of stuff, and like I kind of have some of it from memory, but I'm like, oh yeah, what was because there's a little bit of coding involved, at least it's actually smarter to do that. Like there's a lot of like weird shortcuts if you actually just have like I don't think it's JavaScript, whatever you'd call that.
Right.
But just put the line of code in, be like, tell it to do this many times every time this happens. And because that's how you rig up all this stuff where, like, I've made visualizers for bands, some bigger ones now, like an industrial band that I actually listened to, like randomly found me, like who aren't from here or anything. Where I was like, hey, do you have like the stems? So I'll get like the kick drum and the snare, and I'll be like, okay, every time the kick goes off, like this part gets brighter. Every time this happens, and I just rigged it all together. And like, but I didn't know how to do that a few years ago. But that's the thing, that kind of thing, I've gotten faster at it. There's way less people that know how to do that, and that's why you'll notice that I don't do that many. I will get at me, but for a prize, I'll do a real good job. But I don't do a ton of like local music videos. I started to do things that aren't even for music or art, and ads and whatever, and that's where. And then I became a narrower part of the selectable people, and every once in a while, I'm like, maybe I should even like 9 to 5 it at a place just to get a little bit more benefit out of it. Well, and that also. Then when I go home, I'd be able to go home because I'm not running around in bands anymore. So I'm like, I just want to do comedy and make goof videos. So if I have like some work from home video editing job for a place where I could do things faster than everyone else and knock off around 1 and be like, yep, I'll have it to you tomorrow morning. I'll probably be working on it a little late. And it's been finished for 2 days. You know what I mean? Well,
it'll be done. It'll be done by 5 o'clock tonight. You have it done by 11, and you're fucking, smoking a cigar and doing a line.
That's well, I mean, Greg, I'm going to tell you, there's a reason that I don't think I've worked 5 days in a row in the past 20 years, and I own a house. Like, But part of that was learning a new thing that shallowed the pool I was in, where I'm like, okay, a lot of people have your phone is a really good camera. There's editing software. Now, there's some finesse that I'm still proud of my ability to, like, old school edit, like, comedy timing edit or action movie edit. Like I get how to do it, and it's really fun, really rewarding. Doing the sound design, getting better at that was helpful too. Like, we need somebody for this. I'm like, well, for this and this and that, I can do that too, and I'll probably get the whole thing done just as fast. I'm like, all right, like whatever. But I just tried to learn. Again, it's like everything. I just tried to learn everything that I could get away with about it. So yeah, I didn't have to grind quite as much. I'll always go and do a music video for you if you get at me and you're not trying to lowball me too badly. But
what is your favorite editing software for the video stuff?
Oh, I use Premiere and After Effects and Photoshop. Actually comes into, even though it's still like cutting together backgrounds for things that might be like artificial. Sometimes Illustrator works for that too. That's one that I'm not as handy at because you kind of like there's things you can do with it.
You got to build though. It's more of a building tool, isn't it? I mean, if you can actually draw too, which I kind of really can't. Right.
Illustrator's like really really helpful, but you can do, even if you're not much of a drawer, you can use it.
You can cut and paste a lot of cool shit too. I've seen some people do some shit on Illustrator, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's neat, and Illustrator and After Effects are a thing that you can use together for, you want to make like a Tron back, like you draw like layers of weird grids, and then you can like put them into different 3D layers and make them all glow.
Sure,
you can build a lot of weird stuff in 3D space, and then you start getting into like Cinema 4D, and I don't own a computer that could even like open that crap, so I haven't learned it. But I should. Everything is really like microchips are in short supply, so I haven't like
upgraded.
I want to build I use a MacBook for like a lot of things, but I might want to get like a PC tower for like rendering the really elaborate video stuff because it's just much cheaper to build an overpowered one.
Yep.
And my soon-to-be brother-in-law Connor is like, he can build. I mean, him and Alexis for my birthday built me an arcade machine that has a like a Raspberry Pi with like every old arcade game and thing in it that you can scroll
I've been seeing
through.
a fucking ton of those lately.
Yeah, like Alexis found a cabinet that was like I think it was from Afterburner because she was like, it has like these pedals on it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I know what this. I think I saw it said Sega somewhere, so I'm like, I think this is an Afterburner cabinet.
No shit.
But then they just found. Like, you can buy the glowing green and yellow buttons and stuff, and then they just put a monitor in it, and it's got Connor just hacked a fucking thing that has 900,000 old games in it.
Yeah.
It's just in the basement by the green screen. Like, hey, you can just play anything
fucking,
on there.
Last Saturday night, I ran into a guy. I go to this Halloween party, and him and his girlfriend are dressed up as the Green Lantern. The Green Lantern and the Yellow Lantern. And they're both really, like, comic book nerded out. You know what I mean? So they're, like, telling me these little things about these comic books and what they're doing and, all the shit. And all of a sudden, the guy's like, "Oh yeah, so you like video stuff? You like this, huh? Oh, look at this! I build fucking video games." And the system he had set up was this gigantic screen with the fucking podium and all that shit.
The total big gamer guy thing, and and that's Hunter. I mean, his work is more like just because it pays better. It's like big factory scale industrial HVAC stuff is what he does, and he's pretty young. He got into that and it was like a pretty good move. But he can also completely build you I'll just build you like 4 PC towers that'll like render like everything in Jurassic Park in like one day. Like if I wanted to spend the money on all the video cards and I do and I will and that'll happen. I am a little all over the place. I will admit that if it looks from the outside like I really have a plan, I don't really have a plan. Like I'm just like, I want to do comedy, and I'm just rather than treating my ADHD, I just was like, all right, you run things. Yeah, just go. You run things, disease. I don't fucking care what happens anymore. Yeah. Like, I don't know, my wife loves me, and it's like, I have somewhere to live. Let's just do whatever. Like, and then, it doesn't always, there's probably way more efficient ways to do everything that I do. And I'm making an album for, like, no reason. Yeah. So, which is, that actually feels good. But it is just like, I'm starting to feel that not enough hours in the day thing where I'm like, I wish I could just get paid to do TikTok because then I'd have more time to do other stupid shit.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna do some TikToks and fuck around in my basement in the green screen.
Yeah. Like if I could knock out like a month's worth of funny stuff in a couple of days, just chop it all up and be like, okay, cool. That's everything for this month's expenses. And then now I'm going to fucking finish this like weird techno record I decided to make for whatever reason. Yeah.
Speaking of which, so everybody knows that you've been a musician for a long time.
Yeah.
Now I've heard some weird stories about you ghost writing for people. Is that a true thing?
Yeah. That's not even that weird. Like that's I mean, well, for one, it's a much more common. Like, there's some bands that I've worked with who I think were newer to the idea that, like, you do realize that, like, that band's longtime drummer since the garage days, like, probably didn't play on the record. Like, they probably just got someone who could do it, everything in one take. Like, even like Foxy Shazam, Josh Freese played on. Their drummer was great, but they're like, Josh Freese can just do everything once. And it'll be done. And it's cheaper to hire him than to take the amount of studio time we would need to, even if this dude's great, but that's Josh Freese. So this is what we're gonna do. It's very common. And having if you look at like a Taylor Swift song, there's like 50 fucking people. So just having one other dude kind of like rearranging and writing stuff for you is actually like in the grand scale of the musical world pretty light. Right. Like just having me be like. You have someone like Wally kind of help like arrange the vocal harmonies and do whatever, and you have me be like, and I mean, there's been bands that are like, here's 2 riffs that we recorded, and here's kind of some drum patterns, and I'm like, okay, and then like I'll just go, here's what I would do here, here's what I would do here, here's what I would do here, and I just put it all together, and that is also kind of why I decided I felt like making a record because I'm getting better at mixing and mastering myself. So I'm like, man, because that was the other thing I always hated. Like everything's so expensive, and then they don't even do it how you want, and like, so I'm like, I am going to learn. I'm just going to learn how to make a finished thing myself. So when I decide to make like a song, it's just done. And I'm like, here, everybody. And it won't be mastered like a Paramore or something, but it'll be like, you can listen to it in the car. It's not quiet or muffled. It sounds real. Comes on Spotify. And it lines up at least, if I could at least get to there, and I feel like I'm pretty close. And I was practicing a lot when I was.
So now is this going to be one of those things where you're the more time in the day type of deal where people are going to hear this thing that you've created and go, I wonder how much he charges to do that. Yeah, well, to mix and master.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind, getting into that a little bit more. Like, I think it's like if that's all you're doing, it's probably like Oh, no, it's definitely interesting and fun. I can see getting tired of that the fastest. Like if someone else just completely handled it. But if someone was like, you know, can you rearrange this a bit to really make it like pop? And then, yeah, while you're at it, can you just mix and master it too? And I'm like, well, for this much, then I would have a little bit more fun because then you're making, because this thing that I gave you to play, which is very not done. The verses are copy and pasted. It's just, but I just feel like it's listenable, you know, and it's just kind of fun. But just for reference, but that the way that I made the music in that is like lots of it isn't just like, oh, here's a patch like that sounds like this. It's like I learned so much about like compressors and like all sorts of things where it's like that starts becoming part of the instrumentation, like only distorting part of the top of the frequency of something and then making that stand out so it creates an artificial fifth. So actually without putting like an additional chord on top, you're still getting the idea of that harmony, but by just building it into where the distortion starts and ends and shit like that. Like, so if you are helping someone write something, the mixing can almost be part of the writing process. And I started getting into that a little with a few of the artists I was working on where I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this bass line, but it would sound more melodic if it was just like modulated and distorted in a different way. Then it would by doing the same thing, it sounds like there's more going on or it's bigger and like all this. So it becomes part of the song. And you can't just take that and then hand it to someone to mix however they're going to mix it, because then they're just going to mix it however they're going to mix it. And that weird thing you did to get some bizarre harmonic resonance out of it, it'll just be gone. And then you'll be like, I felt like there was like a whole other instrument in here. And it's like, well, there wasn't, but there was, because you were just hearing something that made it seem like more was going on. So anyway, this mess that I just gave you, there's no real guitars, there's no drums, and if I ever do it live, it's me in a track and nothing. Like, I'm not even bringing a fog, no, I just gotta dress like an idiot and run around and scream. But I designed it so it would be, you know, like if the club had subs, it would be like loud enough, and it wouldn't pierce your, it would, you know, it's nicely flattened to like, but yeah, so what this is just a giant experiment in like, do you even know what you're listening to? No. But is it still fun to listen to, even though it might seem like noise? Yes. Although some of the vocals are pretty half-baked. But I feel like without them, it gets a little dull pretty quick.
All right. Well, let's take a listen. Do you have a name for this thing?
Yeah.
Is it named for the project? Is just a John Wheeler solo project? Or?
Yeah, it's going to be the first thing that's ever just been. This is just Reverend John Wheeler. If you ever like, I remember that guy. Let's look him up. Eventually, you'll look that up and you'll find some of this stuff probably.
Okay.
And then this song is just called No One Cares, which is I think what I want to call the record.
Okay.
When it's done.
Well, let's see what no one cares about.
Yeah.
Wow, that was kind of weird. What the hell happened there? I'm not even sure what happened. It just stopped playing.
That's plenty of that. it goes through some weird changes and stuff, but what you get the idea. It's
40,
like just
46. It just stopped.
Yeah.
What the hell happened there?
Maybe it didn't download all the way.
I don't know.
Or maybe some limiter. It was the high end was a little spicier in these headphones than I was anticipating, so I might have to go fix that anyway.
Let's see if we can get past. We're at 40. There we go. Nice. There we go. Sorry about the little mix-up there, folks. I don't know what happened. I was kind of switching around to kind of look at one other thing, and then it just shut off all of a sudden. So that was it. No one cares.
Yeah. And it needs a lot more things done to it. But I just figured the timing of coming here, I had just finally started recording some vocals, and I'm like, I'd only mentioned to people like in the room with me that I'm like, I mean, Alexis obviously knows, but I'm like, I'm going to make a new record, and I'm going to set it up just so that if someone ever, like, I'm not going to sell tickets, but if someone ever is like, do you have a thing? Because we're coming to, like, Foxy just, I don't know, whoever is like, we're coming to town. Did you have a thing still? And I'm like, yeah, no drums, no nothing. I just, like, the sampler is the whole set. How long do I have? All right, I'll just put 20 minutes. All right, it just goes beginning to end. No one touches anything. And I just run around screaming all that shit you heard on there just over the subs. And then that's going to be either entertaining enough or not, but I got to get out of the house. And if it sounds really good, I'll know that I did my job correctly. And then, like, yeah, like, I'll bring, like, a QR code that's like, if you want a T-shirt, they're online. I'm not printing any of these fucking things. Like, I'm not doing anything, but I'll just run and, like, try to be fun and crazy and just have a thing in my back pocket. And if nobody ever cares about me ever jumping on their show, even if it's really convenient for like 2 years, then I don't do it for 2 years. I'll just write some more songs, make some silly videos for them.
I know Jared and I had talked about doing a live podcast somewhere.
Yeah, he had talked to me about that.
Why not do that too? Why not fucking throw a Promodol or some, you know what I mean? Just that.
Yeah, like that would
in
be
your face
with them.
Fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they'd be a good, and yeah, since I'm friends with those guys, that'd be a good combination to do that somewhere. And well, you know, I've been helping Jake with kind of a solo rap thing too. They don't really sound that similar, but it's still the same idea where it's kind of just him and a DJ, and it's easy to just sort of be like, okay.
Well, he's got a couple different projects where he could, he can always.
Yeah, he's got like, I've been obsessed lately with like so many of these kids. You know, they like sell out the myth, and it's just them.
Yeah,
like maybe they have like
rappers.
Yeah. But well, there's some things again, like there's this thing called Ghost Main, which that low voice was.
Dude, that shit's awesome.
That's why I wanted. I mean, it's not like he invented that. I've been hearing that since the '90s on goth things. But I'm like, this guy is every bit of packing the myth. It's just, I think he might have a band maybe now, but he's still just like up there by himself being weird over tracks, and there's just like girls with his name tattooed on their forehead. It's just maxed out. It's like, okay, so you don't need to throw your back out with a bass amp if your goal is to just share music you've written with people and try to be in their face and weird. Like, you could just show up.
He's got
some
just, cool shit.
No, I actually like it a lot. And I like the it's not 100% my bag, because some of it sort of veers into territory where I get a little like, I really got to be in the right mood, but the use of like distortion and bass and empty space and just weird ambience.
That's what grabbed me about
really,
it.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and some of the stuff he says is cool, and what he does with his voice is interesting, and the fact that it's that image is working for people who. Well, actually, it's not surprising. I mean, I know we went for a while where things were like, no matter what you were doing, it still had to be really bubblegum and whatever. Right. And this is something where it's like, this is music for where I feel like we're at now.
Yeah.
Like kids who are like 19 right now are like, oh yeah, you think I'm going to retire? Do you think that there's going to be breathable air by the time I'm 41? No fucking. So they're just like, no hope, no. These old scary Disney cartoons.
Yeah,
just like fucking, like, yeah, they're just on drugs and they know they have no future. And it's like, he's the musician for them.
Godflesh reminds me of that, like the older school.
Yeah.
Because Godflesh has always kind of been that style. You know what I mean? Like real industrial, real fucking just dirty sound.
Yeah, painting all the picture with distortion. Which is that's a real fun thing to experiment with too, and I think that it's an acquired taste because
I've wanted to make an album like that forever.
Oh, it's really fun to do because I think there gets to be a boredom in just like digging around for different. Should I use this? I have so many soft synths. I have Moogs and real. Yeah. I'm like, why don't I just use? Like, I basically just start off everything as a default setting now and just start fooling with it till it sounds weird. And like, I've not always been that guy. I'm a guy, I don't like to leave things exactly how they are, but I'll usually start somewhere like, well, this is a string section. This is a, whatever. Like, if you listen to My Zero, you hear a lot of footprints of more standard things that
Sure.
you'd hear out of me, or that one Blue Felix record I was involved in before I left, and like the last one that came out, you kind of hear that it's always, oh, here comes the big synth string thing over the chorus, and here comes the big choir noise, and here comes the rave synth lead that sounds kind of like Skywind, and here's like, whatever. Like, I would just do these things, and I'm starting to get to where I was like, well, I was just working around the guitars with those, because guitars take up so much sonic space.
Sure.
That, like, to have keyboards cut through but not cover it up, it's like you kind of, we already figured that out.
Right.
But I wanted to do something where I'm like, yeah, the drums aren't even real drum sounds. Like, everything is just a weird mess, and I have to learn how to, like, be like, okay, you can't just distort a sub drop because it won't sound like anything. You have to, like, make like 6 copies of it and have different frequency things like blurred out of it, and then the distortion's all in the top few, and like.
How long does that take to learn that shit? I mean, do you just keep tinkering and tinkering?
Yeah. Honestly, a long time. I mean, like, there's little things. Like, I think that a thing that has been lucky for me is that I'm often around other people that know a lot about what they're talking about, and then my skill is basically just extrapolation. So, like, if David Murder's bass tone, for example. Yep. He's like, okay, well, he's got the Axe Effects thing. I think he uses like real stuff more. He mixed a lot of things together. He does a lot of different things with that, and it's real interesting, and it sounds good. So, but what he would do back in the day is he just had, the Axe Effects thing, and he would just model like 2 different entire cabinets, so that would be blended together. So like the low end is going through like a pretty only semi-dirty like Ampeg stack type of tone, and then he would have a copy of his bass signal going to an orange stack for guitars, and then just EQing the parts that butted heads, and then just getting the both volumes to where it felt good, so you'd feel the low, but just hear that, because you'd hear punk band, like kids would just, I'll put my bass through the distortion, but now there's no bass, it's just so you blend it together. So he's just talking about that, and I'm like, and then just filed it away, and then I'm making electronic stuff. I'm like, well, I'll just do
what David did.
That, so like, with like just a sub drop that's like cloned in Logic, because you only have so many things in your Axe Effects. I mean, I'm sure they've expanded them now or whatever, so he can have like a chorus of crazy different things going on if he wanted. But like on Logic, you just you never run out of tracks you can make. So it's like, well, I want this part of the low end to be like really loud but have none of this other stuff. I want this thing running through like a guitar distortion pedal because it's up at the top. And then the mid-range where I cut out those top noises and the bass is going through like a bit crusher, the really garbagey thing. And then I got to figure out how to like set them all on top of each other and EQ them.
Just making it mush.
Yeah, and to not make it mush, to get all of the like... Although, the other thing is, though, the fun thing about making this is since you don't know what the hell you're listening to, it's a little hard to be too judgmental of the mix job I'm doing, because it's like, well, what is this even supposed to fucking sound like? It's just loud and bassy, and I mean, it sounds kind of good, but you don't know. The vocals are the only thing that's like a normal...
But on a real system, like a real solid system, like you say, you took it down to Jake's, was it just fucking pounding?
Yeah, and it wasn't. My car stereo is surprisingly good, too. Alexis has like a 2021 vehicle, so we were, let's put it in here and just boosh. And it wasn't too woofy, and I just obsessively like, all right, well, let's play like a, I don't know, like a Death Grip song or a Skrillex or something next to it and be like, oh, theirs aren't nearly as woofy. I see. Like, I thought it sounded good, but it's not as crisp. And that's what I've been trying to experiment, is that, like, why does all the really...
My question is, with all the years that you've been doing music, did you save your ears at all?
Oh, they're fucked.
I know.
They're fucked. I sleep with a fan on full blast every night.
Me too.
However, that was not just music. I hurt my ears so bad when I was younger because I would build homemade bombs and stuff. Like big, like I mean, there was when I was like fucking 13, that like the cap gun caps, like the rolls of paper. I just took the roll in a garage with the doors closed and just whacked the whole thing with a hammer. I couldn't hear for like a day.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, whoops.
Yeah.
And then it came back, it was all crispy. Then I got into guns, and then I know that you need ear protection, but I would have like, these orange things will be just fine. Yeah. Just giant revolver. I was boom, like, oh, those didn't slow that down at all. Like that or I have an AK. That's the thing where I have to like put in things and things over.
Yeah.
If I don't do both, it's like,
I've always wanted to shoot one of those. I almost bought one when I got my handgun, my first gun.
Yeah.
I saw one, and I had bought one I bought a shotgun, then I bought a handgun, and I was like, I want a fucking machine gun. You know what I mean?
It's hard to not get into that too.
And
it's
once
so
I did,
expensive.
you know, and like in the beginning when you first start doing it, you're like, oh, I'm going to do it this way. You know, you don't go into any gun shows. You don't really like figure out the way to get them without going straight through the fucking government, pretty much. You know what I mean? Where they can turn you down right away, and that's why I wasn't able to get my AK. So.
Oh yeah. I have nothing on paper stopping me. And I remember there was people are like, "You've never even been arrested?" And like, I've come really close, but I can act sober amazingly well temporarily. And
what are you talking about, sir? I don't know what you're talking about.
Like,
I think you're drunk.
Yeah. No, I'm so good at like, nope, I saw that. It's over there. And they're like, okay, thanks. I'm like, like, just like, did you just do like a Trailer Park Boys thing? I'm like, yep, let's go. I also know when to leave.
Yeah.
That saved me a few times where I'm like, that fire's getting, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
It's like, stupid.
Hey, should we go back? Nope, you can go. I'm leaving. Bye. Like, I'll just go. Like, I'll just feel it. I'm like, mm-mm. And now that I don't do anything weird anymore that I'm old now, but, well, fraud. But, but nothing showy, you know. But yeah, that's I was everything I have is just a couple things. One thing used to be my grandfather's when he was alive, and one I kind of got from a guy. But the rest of it's very above board.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, where you go and they're actually like, okay, well, list the tattoos that you have and stuff, and like, yeah. Because, I mean, I have my carry and everything. I'm like fully like, that's why I was like, ooh, maybe I could get legal medical, and like they'll diss whatever your thing, and I'm like, all right, Delta 8 it is. I don't give a shit. Like, that works fine for me.
Yeah, that's fucking. That's kind of crazy that all works like that, man. You can't...
It's a little disconcerting because I actually told a group of folks that are a bit, they're probably like in their 30s now, but I call them kids. They're younger than me, but who are definitely not pro-gun people, and they were talking about getting their medical thing, and I'm like, all right, and I was surprised this went so well, but I was able to put it to them like, like, you guys may not be gun people, right? You know, you're super.
Adam says you've never been arrested, but you've been a person of interest.
Yeah, I'm an interesting person. And oh, by the way, Alexa said sounds good. Thanks, baby. That is my basically already wife, but we're gonna go do the whole wedding in Vegas. That one was for you.
Woo!
But anyway, I was just gonna say though that I managed to sell to them. I was like, look, you guys aren't gun people. And I am. I mean, again, I drive a Prius, but I have an AK-47. You figure it out. But I was like, they will, they will go and take that away from you. Like, if you get your medical thing. And it's like, I know you guys don't care about that, but think about the fact that, like, how many things, work like that. That means so you're going to get, like, a home loan or some shit later on.
Right.
Like, that's something that they were like, oh, yeah, no shit. Thank you for telling. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, of course, the kids these days are pretty anti-government, too. So it's just, I'm proud of them. But, like, they're like, oh, yeah, shit. Yeah, oh, yeah, it's better just to probably get it the old-fashioned way. I'm like, there's so many legal states. It's like the Mitch Hedberg thing. The FedEx guy is a drug dealer, and he doesn't know it.
Doesn't even know it. Yep, that was one of my favorite fucking things because I know so many people that have been like, before it was even fucking legal.
Oh, yeah, it's still...
People would go, hey, I got a big block of hash. Where'd you get that? Oh, I got it in the mail from California. Oh, yeah? How'd that work out? Well, as long as they can't smell it and it sits on your porch for a couple days and you're making sure nobody's grabbing it and it's in somebody else's name at your address. You know what I mean? Like someone saying, well, I live in a fourplex and I always put it to the address of the people that, that don't live in that fourplex. You know what I mean? And
I think wasn't the thing like if you just do like if you do it wrong, it won't come to you. But if you do like current occupant or something, they'll just be like, oh, this is probably just to some stupid thing.
Right.
It's like to this person or to like, or what I could do now, we get so much mail from like we're the third owners of that house and both sets, like the old people that had it forever and the people that had it for a few years before is getting mail there. Like all that. We got somebody's check, like their stimulus check. And I was God, I wish I could like fraud my way in it. There's no way. So we just return to sender, whatever. But they don't live here anymore. But you could just send it to them at that address and it would show up and you'd be like, well, I'm not like Earl Bush or whatever the fuck the dude's name was. Like that's not me, but whoops, I guess this got sent here if anyone ever asks any questions. But
I couldn't imagine that shit, man. You know what I mean? Like big fucking bundles of something, I just got, 2 pounds of Coke sent to me.
Yeah, that is where it starts getting, the funny thing is that, like, I don't know why, like mailing acid around has to be the easiest crime.
No shit, right?
You're just like, it's in like, it's a check to the fucking whatever company. It's like, you're going to tear that open to see if there's something inside the piece of paper in this plain envelope. Like, you can't smell it, but you could have, 100 or what, you could have so much stuff. And I'm like, I wonder how often that happens.
It's gotta, man. Or, you know what I mean? You're sending, liquid acid would be the same way too, and they put it in a fucking water bottle and seal it all up, and
Are you really gonna? Well, I was just talking to my parents, who they're old hippies, so they every time they go on vacation to a legal state, which is like so many of them, like at first they were like, they were asking me, how do we get this back? I'm like, well, you can mail it to yourself or take it back, because they don't check you when you land, and when you're leaving, you're in the state where it's legal. And they're like, oh, I'm like. I was just, me and Alexis were just going a little while ago, the story of like how I can't remember how, correct me if I'm wrong, but like she didn't realize that she had left some like she hid the crazy candy inside of normal candy. And like, well, but then still was like, I forgot I did that, and was all weird when she brought it through the airport. And I was just talking to the guy, like I just threw the boxes of shit like into the bin, and he's like, oh, these are great. Just throw like the TSA guy, like it was like, yeah, they don't care. The fuck do they care? Right. The only thing you can't do is go to a different country, because then you have to declare everything, and then they have to go, well, you can't bring this to fucking Afghanistan, wherever the fuck you're going. Right. You're like, you'll be beheaded, so like, we know that, so we have to take this.
They're going to put a tire on you and start you on fire.
Yeah, we're going to take this away from you now. And it's like, but that's because it's like on them if they're sending you with illegal shit to their country, wherever you're going. Right. But if you're just going to a different state, they're like, well, that won't be legal once you land, but then who's looking? Right. We don't care about that. That's not our problem. Like, unless actually, I don't even know how, like, I guess the federal government would have to crack down. But at this point, there's so much corporate money in legal weed now that the show's over. It's slowly just going to become, it can't go back, because one thing you can't do is go, hey, billionaire, give up your yacht in this country. Right. I don't care how you got it. Unless it's straight up super illegal. Actually, I don't even know. I think once you have that much money, you're like, yep, do whatever you want. Like, because we don't want that to stop being a thing. So knock yourself out.
I won't be going to court. I'm going to have my lawyer go to court, and then he'll call me and tell me what happened. Yeah, that type of shit.
Although I could rant forever about how much I've learned that you and I can do rich people shit. It takes some balls. Yeah. But it technically in some ways the rules are different. Yeah. But in a lot of ways it's like, if you just do things like I don't do this, but if you want to do the big asshole thing and be like, oh, it's cheaper to hire lawyers than pay my employees, I'll just let them sue me, and then it'll end up. And that's what someone who used to be president did a lot, and it wasn't cool. But I knew someone who would just flip houses that would get new windows put in, and then he just wouldn't pay it, and then he would just ignore the bills and the summons, and then they'd usually be like, okay, will you at least pay for a third of it? And he'll call it even, like, oh, yep. And they're like, oh, you just got those for like 2/3 off because you did that. Yeah. And like, what? Like, and then they're like, what, are you going to turn down our business? Well, maybe this time we'll pay, because if you're a big enough customer.
I did it with Guitar Center. Yeah, well, I did. I got a credit card.
Fuck them.
And I fucking maxed it, and then paid it like halfway down. Then they extended my credit. Then I maxed that shit out, paid it halfway. Then they did it again, and then I went fucking nuts. And then I was like, fuck you, I ain't paying you. And then they were like, it was like 2 or 3 years, dude. They're calling me, hey, you owe this month, and you know what? We absorbed this. Now you're in a collection agency. We're going to take it out of your taxes and all this other bullshit.
They can't do that.
And then they were like, all right, if you pay this amount right here, we'll get rid of it. I was, oh, you want $300? Here you go. You know what I mean? For $3,000 worth of shit. You know what I mean?
And that's, when you scale that up, that's famously rich people shit, but that's everyday shit too. I learned it by accident, just by not ever paying for anything, because I was just broke. But I'm like, well, that's no reason to not be able to experience life and start my businesses and do all these things decades ago. Right. And so, they would just be like, there's ones that actually just gave up. Yeah. They were like, well, this is going to hurt your, again, I just bought
what credit?
My credit score is like 798 or something. It's insane because it's been so long now. Yeah. And yes, there is an unfair thing to being rich in this country, and I'm a guillotine-wielding socialist because I got nothing to lose with all that anyway. And I like to see the kids with, dreams.
Guillotine-wielding socialist.
Oh, yeah.
Just fucking chopping skulls.
Yeah, off with your heads. You got there by breaking the rules and getting lucky. I can change your luck. But the one thing I will say is, like, it's unbelievable what you can get away with. It's like when you learn that it's like, if you just don't say anything to the cops, it's almost impossible for them, but everybody does. Like that, this was like someone else's comedy bit, so I'll preface it as that. I don't remember, but he was talking about the first 48, that show where they're like, once they don't solve a murder after 2 days, like, well, like, I guess
that's gonna go on the shelf for a couple. Yeah.
And he said that, like, he's watched, it's like his favorite show, and he watched like thousands of hours of this fucking thing, however many is out there. And he's like, out of all of those guys, there was 2 guys that just were like, you talk to my lawyer. Yeah. And the detective's just like, fuck.
That's a thing. That's a
and
thing.
then those are the only 2 people that didn't go up the river. They just got off scot-free.
This is no bullshit, man. I being around a lot of criminals, as a young guy, honestly.
You're around them now.
I mean, now. Some, yes. But
well, we're here.
It's like, let's see. How would you say this? Okay, so you're taught to believe in the Easter Bunny. You're taught to believe in this fictitious Jesus character.
Yeah.
You're taught to believe, in Santa Claus and all this other shit, right? And what do you do before you get your presents? You go to sleep, right? So there's like this process that you learn to go to sleep. So to get your presents, he comes down the chimney, he eats your cookies. Mom and dad do all that shit. You finally figure it out, and you're like, the light's on. You're like, fuck it. There's no Santa Claus. You're buying my shit, right? You figure that out. Yeah. Now, as a criminal, like, when you're doing criminal shit, right? Before you become a criminal, you learn right from wrong, right? Yeah. So they tell you, if an adult comes over here and says, hey, and when we were kids, if you're out running around with your friends or something and somebody breaks a window and you all run every which way, but they say, oh, there's John and there's Jimmy and there's, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you're the one that gets grabbed. Your parents are... You always tell the truth. This is a biblical thing, right? You tell the truth, it'll set you free, da-da-da-da-da-da. They don't tell you, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Don't say a fucking word to nobody. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I seen John running with Jimmy and Billy and blah, 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 blah. I don't know what you're fucking talking about. Well, we're going to spank you, right? So then they're teaching you the right from wrong. They're spanking you. There's consequence behind it. If you do this, you're going to hell. If you're still a good boy, you're going to go up this way, right?
Yeah, or we know you did it, but we just want you to hear. You feel like the whole world is your principal that saw you.
Well, that's the thing about the police. Is the police can arrest you, right? And then they tell you don't want to go to jail. It's bad to go to jail, right? So you get pulled over, you tell the cop to go fuck himself, right? And he goes, hey, you shouldn't talk to me that way.
I don't recommend that.
Well, legally, you can tell them to go fuck themselves without any kind of legal. It's not illegal to tell them to fuck themselves. It's not illegal to have attitude towards the police. It is not illegal to do that shit, okay? But... for a cop, there's a lot of gray area that they can go, there's probable cause. I smelled marijuana. I pulled him out of his car. He got sassy. I smashed his head against the thing. He was a fucking loudmouth. I arrested him. They can say, we're going to give you 1,000 years for this fucking joint, right? They can say this. And they can threaten you, and you go back to your childhood memories and your things that you were taught, right?
Yep.
So when you become a criminal, they tell you, don't say a fucking word. You don't rat on your friends. You don't do the shit. You take the fucking shit you get. But the cops tell you, I'm going to give you 1,000 years for this bullshit that you did if you don't tell on these people, right? If you keep your fucking mouth shut and you go, I'm done talking to you, talk to that guy. Right? And that guy knows this process, right? That can just go in and out. Oh, did you happen to read him his Miranda rights?
Yeah.
Well, it was probable cause to pull him over because we saw him. And
did he agree to the search?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you just don't agree to shit. You don't say anything. Right. You don't do anything. And it's like, they're always like, oh, we'll make it easier on you. It's like, but they're not up on the bench. Do you see a cop up there? No, that's a judge and lawyers.
And this is what everybody in the world is really taught to believe. Just, much like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the biblical shit and all of that. You were taught to believe that these crooked motherfuckers are the ones that are supposed to be protecting you and keeping you safe from all the shit. And don't get me wrong, I have family members that were police officers. You know what I'm saying? I hate them fuckers too because they're fucking shady as fuck too.
Well, the thing is, they're people, and that's a problem. Human beings are very fucking shiesty.
You give somebody the power to do anything, and they're gonna exploit it and take advantage of it. Because if John the police officer and Greg the police officer, if I'm driving down the road and
sitcom
and I see John the police officer swerving all over the fucking place, and I pull up and I go, hey, what have you been doing? It looks like you've had I can smell alcohol. And you go, I'm John the police officer. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you go, oh, yeah. Jump in my car. We'll pull your car over here, and I'll get you home. Don't worry
give you a ride home
exactly.
There.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just that thing that a lot of people don't understand about the process, and they don't really research it. They really don't think about it because the cop, you're supposed to technically believe what this cocksucker's saying to you.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And they sort of need you to. That's the thing. We're lucky because that's not global.
Right.
Like in Russia, that doesn't work as well. You're like, I'm not saying nothing. No, fine, we'll just beat you up in this basement for a while, like that.
We'll peel your fucking fingernails back.
Yeah, here it's just like cooperating with the police is not. And I kind of stand behind like you don't necessarily have to get tangled up with them by being sassy to them.
Exactly.
But the funny thing is it turns out the irony is that what you see him do in mob movies is actually the correct thing to do. It's like, I ain't saying nothing. Like, tell him, it's like, well, what should I tell tell him to go suck a lemon. That's what you're supposed to do. Not like, oh, I can't believe that guy said that. And it's like, that's why all these guys are still out there committing crimes and shit because they're just like, I ain't saying nothing. Yeah, you don't rat because ratting actually does not help you anyway.
Yeah.
You actually, while you're ratting, you're admitting that you're involved.
Yep.
They're lying when they're like, oh, we already know you're involved.
Right.
And now you've just given them yourself and them.
It's the perfect example. You and I are driving down the road and we've had too much to drink, right? Mm-hmm. Or something happens where you throw a bottle out the fucking window, right? And it smashes somebody. They get into an accident. The cops come and they pull you and you go, I don't know what you're talking about, and then they separate us, right? They're going to say, well, hey, Greg over here in the other room, he already said you threw the bottle out, you purposely threw the bottle at that lady's head through the window, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that type of shit.
Yeah.
So they separate you, then your stories don't jive. If you shut your fucking mouth and don't say anything, well, you're driving down the road. I don't know what you're talking about. What bottle? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? They have nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, someone needs to say something.
Right.
And that's well, and there's so many. Like I've watched a lot of shows about it, and I took a criminal justice course at you generals. You're just like, this seems interesting, and that's where I learned a lot of that stuff. Where it's like the psychological tricks they use. It's like you just don't talk to them at all because they're full of tricks. They know that people hate silence.
Rewords.
Rewording the same question a million times, and the fact I've used the whole people hate silence thing. Like I know that I never shut up, but when I'm dealing with something important, I've learned to be like, well, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, not answering. But that's their fault for making this weird. I will wait, like Don Draper, for you to answer. Like,
right.
Is that all? Like, it's, I get real quiet when it's like important shit. When we're goofing off, it's time to yell.
Chilton and Wheeler.
Officer Down syndrome. I like that's officer. We have a 433 Officer Down syndrome. That reminds me, my friend Joel Bean. Who he said that he caught Down syndrome from fucking a girl once, and it was really funny because he didn't have it, but he was kind of a big fat kid that if he crossed his eyes just a little, he believed it. You know? So he was like, it just came on slow. I was like, oh yeah, and he started changing his face into the thing. I'm like, he is currently in hell because he's dead.
Right.
God, he was the funniest guy.
I had an old guitar player, one of the main guitar players from Necromus, and he used to do this thing. He'd look at him, and then he'd just go, and he'd like roll his eyes back, and it was fucking like, what happened there, man? Did you catch the Downies? What's going on here? It's fucking, and he would laugh and just laugh about that shit. It's fucking great. Unfortunate, but great. Keep your mouth shut when the cops fuck with you.
Yeah, you don't need to be telling them. They can't help you, and they don't want to help you.
and they want to get you in the system so they can make money.
Yeah, they're just trying to make an arrest. It's their job. So I mean, if you're a hammer, things look like nails. I mean, what are you gonna do? But you don't need to help.
Right.
Like, you just be like, you can talk to my lawyer.
I left my old studio, and this is when American Head Charge dropped the Tango umbrella, and I was leaving. Yeah. I drank one drink, and I came to the stoplight. And the light was turning. I whipped around the corner and gave it a little gas to get on 10 to get to the show. Mm-hmm. And I got pulled over and I had my vest on, you know what I mean? And instantly the cop walks up and, who you ride with? Nobody, you know what I mean? Asking me questions about it. Have you been drinking? I smell alcohol. Well, if you smell alcohol, that means I've been drinking, you know what I mean? I wasn't being a fucking prick to him, but he's like, well, get out of the car, you know? Get out of the car, we're going to do a sobriety test. And so I walk back to the back of the car, and he's like, no, seriously, who do you ride with? What's the vest mean? You know what I mean? I go, let me put this in my truck because this has nothing to do with what we're doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, go fuck yourself, basically, you know? Yeah. But I was kind about it. I wasn't an asshole to the guy until he started doing the whole this thing with the pen. And then once he got to the one side, he tried to do this so my head would, you know what I mean? Like, just do it with your eyes, you know? And he's trying to get my eyes to do something goofy. I'm like, I've had one drink. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, you're trying to fuck me up? And then he's like doing the whole stand on one foot. I'm like, I'm sober and I can't do this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to fuck with me, you know?
You know, I learned there's these lawyer guys that I follow on the internet, and they break a lot of stuff down. And one of the things that I didn't know this specifically, though, but once you ask them, why did you pull me over, there's a timer starts. Like, sure. Legally anyway. I mean, of course they can be weird, but then if they don't adhere to that and you can prove it, it all gets thrown out. But if they're basically like, I think if you don't get pulled over much in a Prius, no matter what I've sped past cops so bad, and they're like, oh, some old lady who cares. Like, they will not, they do not care.
Minivans are the same way.
That's why I drive them. But like, but one or two times that I have, like, where I blatantly like went through like probably like a crosswalk while the lights are flashing right in front of a cop. They're like, did you see what you did back there? I'm like, actually, why did you pull me? I work it into the first thing that comes out of my mouth. I'm like, well, okay, we think that this happened. I'm like, use the silence, and they're like, but did you? It's like, to my knowledge, I've been obeying the laws like I always have. And they're like, it's weird. Like, if you ask, they have to get to the point. They can't be like, so anything you'd like me to know about how your taillights aren't, you know, like, just whatever. Right. It's like, why did you pull me over? Like, when they're like, what are you doing today? It's like, well, I was wondering why you pulled me over. Like, then, I mean, again, they can lie later. They can do whatever. I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, but it is, they're like, then they have to get to the point in like a minute or something like that, and it's like a minute goes by kind of quick in a conversation, so they have to be like, well, I think this, and then the best thing to do is just to like let them talk until it's an actual question, and just be like, to the best of my knowledge, I was following all the rules of traffic, like, just that's it. And like, and then it's like, because like, well, why do you think I pulled you over? It's like, well, God, I was doing so much stuff wrong. Let me list it off here. I think, was it this? Like, no, idiot. And they're like, actually, yeah, that too.
A kilo of cocaine between my fucking...
Did you smell the coke coming out of the back of my car? I shouldn't have hit it in the muffler. Like, yeah. That works. People will just sit there and do that and just overshare and just be weird. But once you ask them, they got to get to the point. And if the point is kind of stupid, you'd be like, okay,
I'll tell you
can
what,
I go then?
I got roughed up by 8 cops in my front yard when I was 23, I think, something like that, over nonsense. You know what I mean?
Right.
Horrible relationship issues. She called the cops.
Okay, that stuff always goes so bad.
But we had hashed it out before the cops got there, you know. And as soon as the cop got there, I'm like, just tell him, you know, like, I made a mistake. We got into an argument. I fucking called you guys. I don't need you. See you later, you know?
Yeah.
And I opened the door like this far, and the guy kicked the door in, and then I started talking shit to him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Way to go, Starsky, that type of shit, you know? And then I got roughed up, and then like 2 to 3 years after the fact, I mean, when I got pulled over, I'd visibly be shaking. I'd just keep my hands on the fucking steering.
Oh, that'll get under your skin
and then,
pretty much.
You know, they'd always ask me, and then I'd be out of the car, and then they'd be searching me, and you know, they'd fucking be, you know, asking me all these fucking questions and all this shit, and I was so shell-shocked from getting roughed up that it was just like, okay, just do whatever. Have your way with me. You know what I mean? Make sure you spit on it. You know what I mean? That type of shit. It's just ridiculous.
That reminds me of there's this prison joke that I heard from somebody. I think it was German, but it was like the guy goes to jail. This guy's obviously gonna fuck him, and he's like, "All right, well, at least you have your choice. We can do this with or without spit." And he's like, "Well, I mean, at least, yeah, let's do it with spit." And he's like, "All right, spit, you're in too." It's gotta be such an old, corny, like grandpa jail joke from Germany, but it actually caught me the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
I was late. He's like, "All right, spit." He says you can come too.
The knock joke. The Nazis come to your door and they knock and who is it? And they slap you in the face and go, "We asked the question to you." That shit had me rolling, man.
I did that. The whole bit is Winston Churchill the other night. Like you have to do it in character or whatever. Yeah. It's a fun exercise, and I was like just pretending that I was back. Like you people, lots of Nazis come back to have to do everything around here. Although they were more fearsome, nicely dressed foes back in the day. Now they just waddle about in camouflaged overalls like they're hunting a buffet table. And the only thing worse than a Nazi is a fat Nazi. I defeated Adolf Hitler. You people couldn't cancel Dave Chappelle. Just had to chew it out a cigar and get brown spit everywhere. And wearing a top hat, just being an asshole.
Cigar like
I found a couple old cigars. I'm like, these are way past. Like, I'm never smoking these. I was just like, just like eating it up there and getting it all over myself. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I had a good time being.
That was something that you did at a comedy.
Yeah, that was the Monday. Was it just this other Monday that happened? I think it. Yes, it was. This was on Monday. Yeah.
What time does that thing start at? What is it?
It's supposed to go like 8 to 10. It can go a little late sometimes, but they've gotten better about getting it done at 10. It was like several years ago. It was notoriously like there is no one left, and there's like one guy droning on at 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, guys, there's too many people at but it's 8 to 10.
I'm gonna have to check that out sometime.
It is really fun. Well, you were saying at Jared's that you wanted to try it.
I wanted to try it.
So I would say the best thing to do would just be to go to one.
Just go and
then
check
talk
it out.
See what you think, and then say hey to the guy that runs it, and he'll tell you what to do, whatever. And Andy's
don't suck.
Yeah, he'd be like, oh, if we had that rule, we would not have a show. Like he would tell you right away. But and it could take comics are a weird crowd. It could take, as I was saying earlier, it takes time to warm up a little to people there. But once you do, it's be like, hey, you gonna come do more time next week? Like it's good. You get in, and then I feel like that particular show is a good way to start because open mics are so haphazard and random that it's like, okay, well, you kind of almost want to do something with more structure first, and then you can go and. All right, I know I already kind of have like 3 or 4 minutes of shit I want to try out, so I'll just pop into this thing and then put my name on the piece of paper and go up because I think it takes a little confidence because those are you're flying without a net so weird at those because there's just no control. You're just anyone who shows up, just here you go.
That would be fucking kind of crazy to be involved in that. Oh, it's Crystal giving us a hard time when she shooting at things we're saying while we're doing it.
Chill out, bees. Boys?
Love you, bro.
They're actual bees.
Chill out, bees. That is actually a bee buzzing around.
What?
Fucking bee.
I don't know what's going on. Well, yeah.
Well, how many songs are you planning on doing? Are you going to release this thing? Or are you?
Yeah. I'm gonna, it might be like kind of modern, like one at a time. Like I might make
Singles?
a simple video, but I intend to have. So part of what I'm doing is I'm taking some of the greatest hits. Like I'm taking some of the SMB songs that I can 100% say that like I wrote all those riffs, and I'm remaking them into kind of like what you were hearing there.
Right.
Just the ones that I feel like would I can do that with because I wrote those guitar riffs in 1997 or whatever. But and then also that would sound good with that treatment that. Kind of the bouncy thing where you could recognize it, but I've completely changed how it all works and stuff. So there'll be those, like a couple of those, and then maybe a couple of actual covers that are, again, in that weird, just distorted dance, slam, whatever format. But yeah, I intend to, like, between that and then just things I pulled straight out of just randomly writing, like, it'd be nice to have like 10 of those. So it's like if someone ever wanted me to do a set or something, I'd have, that many things recorded with vocals on them. and I'd know whether I like them or not. And then if, again, if like I ever did anything and someone liked it, I could be like, yeah, just scan this QR code. You download them all for free, wherever it takes you, and just be like, here, they all exist. They're all there.
Yeah.
You can order like a made-to-order T-shirt from one of those companies that, whatever. I know how to design logos. Here you go. But I never intend to print a CD or print a shirt or do literally anything except for show up with like whatever I plug in that has all the songs on it and like just be like, here you go, like
my zip drive. You got a place I can put this zip drive?
Yeah. Just what's it? Like Jake's his DJ thing. They just use like one of those like Boss sampler, but they hold so much now. You can get a card where you can just have like an hour on each button if you wanted.
Yeah.
So and those are like really dirt because bringing your laptop's a little bit, especially if you use it for other things, a kind of a bad idea.
Right.
But if you just have a thing where you're like, all right, that's the other thing I totally want to do too is like not have like, oh, let's do this song. Like, there's like 20 seconds of weird noise in between. It's on rails, and I'll make a backup. They're like, it's running late. Can you just do 15? I'm like, all right, that's bank C, and there. That one starts with this one and ends with this one. There's a few less songs on it. All right, just beginning to end.
You're opening tonight.
Goes. Yeah, like, and I'm like, I don't care. It is what it is, and.
Dude, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I just want to be able to, and I think it's not the kind of thing that I don't think would work for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you're just so comfortable up there that you're like, I don't give a shit as long as I can hear it and the place actually has subs and it's not like VFW, just like only the high speakers like where it won't work. Yeah, I'm like, hey, that's a way to participate, and also. Doing comedy, I've gotten paid to do it not a lot, but it feels like a lot when you've been in a band.
Yeah.
You're like, we can only give you $150, because you came out here, and I'm like, yeah,
How
but
many drink tickets is that?
Yeah, but like that's just mine now, and I drove in a Prius, so this trip cost me $2, and like I actually figured that out as I drove down to like Le Sueur and back, and I'm like, this cost. Let's see, I used less than a gallon of gas, so this was like $2.80 or something, like $100. I'm like. Yeah, that's cool. And I killed some time, talked to some dudes. It was fine, Oh, yeah, and then they gave me beer and stuff. So I'm like, if I had a solo music thing, my thought is that if I was getting out of the house a little more, I could be like, hey, I'll open this. I got 20 minutes of music here, go tell 10 minutes of jokes there. And it's like, hey, I made like $600 this month. Yeah, and it's like all I did was stuff that I would do for free anyway. Right. And then on top of like, I don't know, it's a weird. Wait, maybe it's not a weird way to look at life. Maybe it's the only smart way to look at life.
Right? You just broke a code and you didn't even know
I don't need all these other people doing all this stuff. Like that no longer applies. Not that all that I wouldn't take back some of it, but mostly not any of it over the years. Like it's all fun. I mostly talk to everyone I've ever been in a band with. It's like I was saying, like Jake's up almost every week, and he's up. We do podcasts every once in a while. Just yell. And Dave goes to comedy, and like I'm around people still, and it's all real fun. But now, going forward, I'm just like all the way down to mastering it. I'm just doing this shit myself.
Yeah, being self-sufficient like that, man, is probably fucking a lot less nerve-wracking. You know what I mean? Like you can,
or at least
your
it's
time
your problem rather than hoping to God.
I'm going to lay down.
yeah. Or they're like, did you iron your show shirt? I didn't even bring it. I'm just gonna wear a t-shirt. I'm like, God damn it, we're trying to do a thing here. Like, you just don't have to worry about that. Right. You're just over it. And like, if you fuck up, it's your fuck up, and that's for some reason for me easier to deal with. And I also think that like just the running in circles, trying to be as creative as I can, as best as I can, is a good way to like not age terrible. I don't want to start getting mushy in the brain, and I'm like, that would be hard to do, spinning this many plates. As long as I get enough sleep, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah,
and I do. I do not sacrifice sleep, which is another reason touring's off the fucking.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
I've looked into way too many. I shouldn't fuck with that. It makes noise. There's been way too many studies where they're pretty much figuring out that people get. Alzheimer's comes from not sleeping your whole life. Because they were finding this correlation where they're like, how come, Dad was he ran all the business himself and whatever. I'm like, yeah, this happened because he didn't sleep. He'd be like, I only get 2 hours a night. And it's like your brain just falls apart like really bad. So
like
it's
the wires just fry out.
Yeah, it needs that time to like, there's like chemicals that like absorb themselves and recycle. And you got to let them do that or you're going to lose it, And that made a lot of sense to me because like, it's like, oh, you'd think these go-getters would like last longer. I wonder, and they're like, yeah, they don't sleep. And I'm glad as a society we're starting to like Like, don't be proud of how little you sleep. It's like, yeah, fine, I need 8 hours. You want me to do this right? I need to get some sleep.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to brag about how ragged I'm running myself.
Right,
I was like, hey, if you want, I could do it wrong if you want, but if you want me to do it right, I need
I'm
a break.
complete fucking asshole if I don't get enough sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just fucking want to fucking tear people apart, you know?
Well, yeah, your brain doesn't like that. It's like it's all the wrong chemicals start flowing, and it'll, probably react as if threatened, which some people's response is anger. That's my problem too. Fear. Most people with anger issues, it's because of fear.
Right.
I've become a little bit less of an angry dickhead because I've become a lot more cool with anything that happens. Like, I don't care anymore, and I actually flip out less. But if I'm dehydrated and haven't had enough sleep, it's like I'll start taking stuff the wrong way. Like, I'm pinned to a wall, and I'll start having to fix the drywall again. Like I will get back into like, and it's good that Alexis is like, okay, you just
have a Snickers.
You don't need to be afraid right now. We're on the same team. And we're like, okay, that's really helpful. But of course, back in the crazy drunken band days of no sleep or whatever, just having this like Axl Rose temper because my body constantly thought it was dying, and it was probably right.
Right.
I was just always just lash out at everything. And
Here, give me 20 beers. Fucking add, lots of travel on that. No sleep.
You're going to be very reasonable in the morning. Like that. That's definitely
good stuff, man. Well, hey, dude, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it. I'm super stoked, dude. You've always got a lot of cool things going on, and Adam said this from the very beginning, way at the top. He said that you are a huge inspiration, a huge influential cat, and I agree with him, man. Like I started getting into this photo taking thing, and we did that thing with the Promodol thing, and I got to see you work as in your video stuff, and how professional you were with it, and just I was admiring at how you were able to take, because I know a lot of people that do video stuff or they overshoot everything, and it's you guys had it figured out to where things were separated very well, and you did minimal things and got cool things out of it. And
that video took 4 hours. I remember that was like the funny thing where we all talked about how it's like, that won an award and it took like 4 hours to shoot.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's all of the things that you've done. Like, I've always wanted to do the comedy thing. I see you do it. You do it well. I mean, the things that I've seen, what I mean?
It's a learning, but
and then going into the alchemical stuff, and then doing the Rum Dumpster, and like branching out, and then doing the anchor stuff, and like all these little cool skits that you're doing. And I mean, it's like you're taking all of the things that you've done and kind of just snatching and, putting them all into these little pots. And dude, you always seem to have a lot of cool shit going on, and always very interesting to me anyways, being, doing a lot of this stuff for a long time, being creative. I love that. I love seeing it. I love to see people succeed at it. And, you don't share a lot about it when it comes to, you say you make it a living off of it. And that's about as much as I've ever heard. You've never gloated on what you've done or anything like that, but you've always been like, hey, I've got a house, I'm doing my thing, and I'm being creative, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And dude, that's super inspirational to me.
Well, and I would hope so. And it isn't, I like the fact that it could, it's like, it's hard to explain because I do such a hodgepodge of different things for income. I do as many things I just screamed about for fun. I'm doing twice as much stuff to make money. And some of it's really boring, but it's you just use your knowledge to get whatever it is that they want done, whatever. But I think it's good for people to be able to look at that and be like, oh, I could do that too. Like I want that, and I want the decentralized. Like sometimes you need an office job, but sometimes you're valuable enough where you can figure out a way to not do that. And not always does that always work for everybody, but it's like anyone that it could work for should be doing it if it's possible.
I think it's cool to see someone, take different aspects of the things that they like and figure out an avenue to make money off of it, and to hustle and put that time in. And like you said, learn new things. You know what I mean? Like you get frustrated. I don't want to do this. It's going to take forever and blah, 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 blah. And then you go, fucking, it's all right there. Why not just do it? And then be good at it, and then other people aren't. You know what I mean? Like you said, you're finding what people don't do a lot of, and being specific with that. And being able to give it to people if they want it, and that's fucking killer. I think that's killer.
Well, and I appreciate that. You know what? Even if you're the only, aside from people around me, if you're the only one that sees that, at least somebody does. And I don't know how to take a compliment. So but I do appreciate that. I also like that very, very, very specifically that you do have an eye for, because one of the most important things about creativity is just having good taste.
Right.
Like if you knew how to do everything you knew how to do, but you had completely shit taste and you were just like, oh, this seems fine. People would be like, Greg, this sucks. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I always like when I see that in other people too. So I appreciate that you definitely have like an eye for like how the way things need to be the best way they can be and stuff. And I've always liked that about you. And I like doing your show. And actually, I didn't know this, but because she didn't tell me, but Alexis did tell me that when we were first kind of dating, she dug because she didn't know who any of my bands were.
Yeah.
That actually had nothing to. She was around music, but just wasn't a fan of any of that and didn't really know who I was. So she was like, "Who is this guy?" And it's obviously not everybody has this much of a footprint. So it's like, but she found our other podcast from over there and like listened to the whole thing and was like, I could date this guy. Yeah. I don't know how you get that out of that, but you made like a love connection possible. So that's, if there's anything
we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Yeah. If there's anything we take away from this, you need to start a dating show.
Nice. You like guys with ADHD? Come on over.
Do you like to just listen while loud people berate you?
Shut up, we're talking. All right, man. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for playing a tune on here. I appreciate it.
I'll send more by too. I'll let you know where it's at in the future when it's more shined up.
Is there a spot that people can reach you to do video work or anything like that? You want to promote any of that stuff? You want to tell them to come see you on Mondays or anything?
Yeah, well, no, yeah. If you, any of my social media things, it's usually like Reverend John W. So Instagram, Facebook, John Wheeler, like whatever. Like I have, my name is tied to like everything that I have out there. So you can find me without looking too hard. And it's funny. I don't even have a website. I should have a website.
You should.
But I haven't been able to take the time to make one because of...
Dude, it's so easy nowadays.
I know.
For God's sakes,
I really need... But the thing is, I keep busy enough without really advertising much. So I'm like, I guess if the river dries up, I'll really have time to like, okay, I need...
Well, fuck, it probably overwhelm you. You know what I mean? Like all the things that you're into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even to post the stuff, like your YouTube videos on it, or not even your services. You know what I'm saying?
I should have like a thing with links to everything that you can get to. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I promise.
Dude, I would like to see a spot where you have all of your videos that you've done.
I definitely
because I had
that.
like so many. I wanted to see angles and things that you had done, and I started going back to some of the ones that I knew, you know what I mean? Like some of the Gabriel Apocalypse things that you've done, and
I did like 6 of them.
Yeah, all really cool, really creative ones too, though. That you know what I mean? So I dig it, and I know that like look them up. Go check out John's stuff.
If you can't find me, you're not looking. So just drop me a message.
All right. Well, thank you very much, man. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. We appreciate you showing up and sitting with us. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. Join me next week. I'm not even sure what I'm doing next week, if I even have a podcast. But I apologize for not doing them the last couple of weeks. I went to Denver. I got sick. I had like all the shit going on. My mom went to the hospital. My kids have been sick. It's been fucking chaos, but I appreciate you showing back up and coming and hanging out with us and checking the show out and listening. Thank you very much. Do me a favor, check out Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated, custom screen printing, antibroadcasting@gmail.com, 612-836-9488. They do all kinds of fantastic screen printing stuff. Give them a shout if you're looking to get some shirts done. I know they do fucking shorts and fucking sweatpants and all the boner pants, whatever, all that other good stuff. Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective is... Jason Del Castillo, a good buddy of mine's tattoo shop. Some very good tattoo artists over there, and they are always busy, but they always make time for the walk-ins. So if you're looking to get some stuff done, do me a favor. Check out Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective, 612-353-4755, lowbrowsaints@gmail.com. I hope you guys have a good evening and a good weekend. Peace out.
Ritual Madness Podcast. Ritual Madness Podcast. Ritual Madness Podcast. Ritual Madness.